Evening, everybody. Having a wonderful Saturday night. Thank you all for showing up to Legion's class. How is everybody doing?
Oh, hello everyone.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good to be back.
Hello, hello.
I love it, Jesse. Good morning.
Good
As we
morning.
as we all just roll out of bed.
Good morning.
Are
Are you
Hello
officially
there.
taking
Good
roll
afternoon.
right
Good
now?
evening.
Is that what's happening? Are you taking
Yeah,
roll, Oz?
you know what? That's what we need to do. We need to start taking roll each and every week. See who's consistently showing up for class, because this will show up on your report card, people.
There will be a pop quiz.
Oh
The question
man.
is, how many Mythic Legions are pop figures? Answer 0.
Oh.
Although technically Krampus is one, if I remember right. Right, Jesse? They have a
Oh,
Krampus pop figure.
there is
So,
several variations of a Krampus
there's a
Funko Pop.
Yeah, there is that. But beyond that, no, 0.
Other than custom ones people have made.
Well, I guess
True.
now too, maybe like a Santa Claus / Father Christmas Funko Pop or a Headless Horseman, but it's more like figure obscura than
Mhm.
your typical Mythic Legion
On that
scare.
note, I better get my cosplay on there. Just a second. Carry on there.
All right, so I'm gonna run down here, and we are gonna say hey to everybody hanging out in the chat with us on a Saturday night. I love seeing it. Gamer Bud in the house saying hello,
Ah.
Legionnaires, and chat. How is everybody doing tonight? We're all doing great. Gamer Bud is great to see you as always. And this Master Versal Toy Hunter fellow, he was all here ready to go first thing. I love it.
There we go. How's
Absolutely.
it looking?
Looks
He's adopting
fantastic.
Earth customs there, eh?
Yeah.
That's
At least
right.
particular cultures from Earth.
Where did Santa Claus come from?
Yeah.
I'm looking rather obscura again.
Yes.
I like it.
Ho,
Love
ho,
it.
ho, ho. I
Go
hope you'll be
figure,
good there in the chat.
Go figure. I love it. Love it. All right, guys. So we've also got Damon in the house. Damon, it's good to have you. I always enjoy it
Hello,
when you're able to
Damon.
pop in for the chats.
I see you said hello out on there before.
Yeah. Got
Thanos
Thanos.
copter, sir.
Excellent. God, I love seeing everybody coming back each and every week. And I'm always really excited that, for a show like this where we're just getting together to talk about legions, it's fun seeing the interest grow with everybody who's joining. Because it started off just a few weeks ago with the Headless Horseman unboxing I did, and then grew into our last class that we did about a month ago now. Now we're finally into the second class, and I just did the unboxing last night for Father Christmas. It's fantastic.
That was a month ago already?
It just about. It's flying by quick, man. I swear, the older we get, the faster time goes, or our perception of it, I believe. But that's a chat for another time, man. Whew, God, that'd be way too. Time. It's not linear. It's all wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
You're gonna break my brain before we even get started here if we start talking about that stuff.
Ain't it the truth?
This is heavy, Doc.
It's a flat circle.
We've got Nolan in the chat with us tonight.
Oh, hello,
Great to
Nolan.
see ya.
Sir.
Oh, and you know what? Yes, Damon was saying, Eldor, do you have an IG? I feel like I was following you or following.
Oh
you
yes,
pretty much.
I have a IG there of I think 320.
Yes.
Was it IQ?
Oh man. So
yes, I have Instagram there. Just been a bit cheeky.
definitely what I'll do is later I'll go back through the description. I'm gonna post everybody's socials as far as their IGs and YouTube channels. So make sure if you're enjoying the show, you give everybody a like and subscribe on their own individual channels and see what else they got going on outside of class. All right. So we've got Birds in Boxes. That actually sounds like a band. I'm kind of down with that. Birds in Boxes.
Isn't that a movie?
Alfred Hitchcock he had a whole bunch of birds once.
That was that Sandra Bullock one.
Yeah.
Bird Box.
Yeah.
That's the one. It came out around the same time as what was that, The Quiet Place or whatever? It was like one movie you couldn't see him, the other movie you couldn't look at him, and then the other movie you couldn't say anything.
But then the Kermit the Frog is completely throwing the whole vibe of all of that for me. So I'm just like, hey, It's time for the Muppet Show. Let's do it.
Reporting live from
It's time for Mythic Legions. Yay!
there's murder at a place called Hooper's.
Muppets in stereo.
Someday we'll find it. The Rainbow Connection.
All right, people, you're seeing it here. You're getting a whole variety show tonight. In the style of Muppets.
Yes, I believe old Kevin the Frog was top of the charts in Antonio for a while. That song.
That's great. So Nolan popping up, just saying hey to everybody back here in the classroom, and
Hello, Gamer Bud, sir. How are you today?
one of my
Good.
new subscribers who just subscribed earlier today, David Williams. Good to see you.
David
Thank you for
Williams.
making
right
it out.
on.
Greetings, David. There.
Excellent. I know this week, since Jesse was kind enough to go ahead and throw this up in the Cabal, we're probably gonna hopefully pick up a couple more Legions fans in there who will definitely have knowledge to bring into the chat while we're all talking about it in here. It's fantastic. So Gamer Buds here saying to bring a little Motu into this, I was looking at the Mythic Legions Proxus Semir Scroll Warder figure and was
Yes,
thinking,
I have him on pre-order there, sir.
well, that could make a good Masterverse Keklar figure.
Oh,
Very
yes,
interesting.
I
Very
believe the old figure obscura Father Christmas would make a good Eldor, do you think? And the
Yeah.
beard for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's that second long, lengthy beard really
Mhm.
would rock the look. All right, guys. So did anybody want to go through and talk about what they've picked up this week?
Oh, jeez.
I picked some things up and put them down.
I do that a lot. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Well, as long as we didn't pick up a cold or the old COVID there, I think we should be
Yeah.
fine.
Not this week.
No Rona. No Rona.
Mm.
Oop. So we had Duchess of Darkness pop into the chat
Hello,
saying hello
Malik.
to everybody.
Welcome
Absolute
in
Hi,
there.
Duchess.
pleasure to have you here. Great, fantastic. Guys, definitely head over to her channel and give her a subscribe if you haven't already. She does Wicked Wednesdays every week, as well as posting several other videos each and every week. Awesome stuff if you like horror.
Mhm.
Indeed.
All right. So,
I'm-
Eldor, I know you did an unboxing this week. What is it that you picked
Well,
up? Something
try
appropriate
to
for
there.
class. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You said you had some difficulties.
Yes, the old audio seems to lag, but we just put that down to the old transmission time that reaches Earth there and what have you. I'm sure that the scientists will brief you more on that subject. But no, hopefully we can upgrade the technology here. Might get our old man at arms to work, I think.
Got to charge it with a little bit of extra magic, I think. That's what's
Mhm.
got to happen. Did you want to
Verizon's
show?
trying to get their
we
cut
have to
even in
use our
Eternia.
magic sparingly over here, I think.
Okay. Don't want it to run out. That's true. It's true.
So
Did folks? Sorry, I missed it. Did folks have things that they either picked up either this week or?
We're just
I know you-
starting. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, would you like to stop there, Oz, sir, since you're the host there?
I mean, yeah, I could definitely go first. It's definitely showing off last night when I did my unboxing of Father Christmas here. Definitely second figure obscura that I picked up, and I am just loving this figure. Gosh, he's fantastic.
Well, he's well
And-
done there.
And I
Well,
love.
a bit to him though.
I was definitely, I'm still in love with Snowy the puppy. Comes with him. He's gonna
Oh,
hang
so you
out
named
here.
him Snowy there. Oh, how lovely.
Yeah. I enjoyed Snowy, so it's Snowy the
I got
puppy.
that on Tintin, the old Tintin series. His dog was called Snowy, although he was a little bit more whiter in shade, I think.
So, Sean, I did want to ask you: did you pick up this figure obscura?
No, I didn't end up picking that one up for a couple different reasons, but I've seen on the Cabal how many people are absolutely in love with it, and that's really cool that they knocked it out of the park again a third time with this new line that the sideline with figure obscura with that.
Mhm.
Well, did you see the 2 helmet sculpts that came with them?
I did last night because I hung out with Jesse for a couple hours and he was showing off all he's like, here's Father Christmas, here's the goodies in the second. I'm like, that's what I want to see. I'm like, spoil away. I don't mind. Let's do this. So, yeah.
Well, did you have any interest in either?
In either of the two. Because he's over here. There he is. He's over here. Yeah. Because I did it again.
And real quick, apologies to anyone who didn't know what was in there and was trying to keep it secret. So we probably shouldn't go too into detail, but
the Four Horsemen posted it themselves. I'm not.
Oh, did they post it already?
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
They posted it Friday.
Never mind.
They
actually out of the bag.
Someone actually posted on the Krampusnacht event. They showed a picture of the table, and the two items were sitting out on the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I saw an official post that they had done off their own page Friday during the day, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait.
Yeah. So last night Jesse actually hooked me up with the one that I liked out of the two options for that saw. I thought that was really cool, and I haven't been able to do the thing I want to do with it yet. Okay. But when I do, I'll post it, and you guys can take a look, see what you think.
Awesome.
Oh, yes.
Well, Jesse beat me to it then, because I was definitely going to offer you.
I appreciate that.
Both or one of them if you'd like it, because I really don't have the extra character to go with them now. That's not to say that I won't pick him up eventually, who I will want one of these to go to. But since you were so generous with everything that you sent to me, I wanted to send something back if you hadn't had a chance to get it for yourself.
Hey,
it's a thought that counts, mind you, at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. So, if we didn't schedule it to hang out last night, because Jesse and I have not had a lot of like one-on-one time since Legion's Con, because he's off doing all the stuff he does lives and everything in the Cabal, and I'm running around after my kids and having to have my deadlines beat me up one side of the head and down the other lately. So I'm just like, it was nice to just have downtime and just talk shop without needing to be recorded for once. But it was awesome to get that. So thank you once again, Jesse, for that. I appreciated it last night. So.
You're welcome. I was able to get Father Christmas because I had my very own Secret Santa make that possible. So a big shout out to you. You know who you are, so thank you very much. I absolutely love that figure. It was cool to see the surprise that a new figure obscure was coming, and stress at the same time because like it's not going to happen, and then it happened, and it's such a cool figure, and it was a lot of fun. I love the Father Christmas. I love the slimmer body. I know we won't get too deep in that, but I really dig the look of this
He's
figure.
a lot of money too, which is why, unfortunately, I was not able to pick him up. But
for what you get,
we must see how the coming weeks go.
For what you get inside the box, not counting the box itself, because boxes aren't usually a big thing, but the box art on all the figure obscura stuff and the bigger box, all the art for Mythic Legions is gorgeous. Nate Barch is top tier.
He's fantastic there.
But for what you get in that box, it's definitely underpriced for what you get in that box.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I was surprised as I kept going, and there's more. Like it wasn't stopping. And I'm like, this is fantastic.
It gives you that vibe of like, oh, if I actually got to look into Santa's sack for real, that's how it would feel. It's like the TARDIS. It's like so much bigger on the inside. What else can I pull out?
Yeah, like Mary Poppins pulling all the stuff out of her bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So we are going around talking about our pickups this week. Of course, the main one going across the board that we all seem so impressed with again is Father Christmas here. But since the last Mythic Legion class, I have picked up, and I'm not even good,
Bryophytus.
Bryophytus. Awesome.
Danos, good job in doing your homework, buddy.
Yeah.
Well done.
Excellent. Glad you're jumping in on this and having some fun with us. You know, that's fantastic. So glad to see that again. Like, okay, first off, these videos are not meant to actually sell them, but it's meant that like if you're interested, it's not as scary to get into it as you would think. You know.
Well, I'm much in the same boat there, Thanos. After the rather accidental drop into the Mythic 101 there last month. just sort of wrote me in, shall we say, and I picked up 2 figures there.
You're
So,
welcome, and I'm also sorry.
Right.
It's all good there, sir.
Double-edged sword that is Mythic Legions, yeah.
So on that note, Elder, what did you end up with this?
Oh, okay, putting me on the spot there, as it were.
Yeah.
Oh,
So yes,
you stuck your foot in it.
so yes, I had my eye on a rather big figure there last month after the old sitting in on Mythic 101 there, and I ended up making the jump or the dive, as you say,
Yes.
and I got a Various there. He's a rather bit of a handful. He's a nice big figure, nice and tall. He's a bit of a horsey centaur, I believe, type of figure.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how gorgeous that thing is.
I plan to do a better review of him. I was going to film it today, but the old cellular device that Man at Arms fixed me up with, its battery ran out, and I forgot to charge it up. So that's charging up, I believe you say, at the moment. So I'll be doing a better review of this because, of course, that live video I did a couple of days ago, and that was just to break the figure in, as it were, and have we look over it. I had to heat it up, of course. You have to be careful with the stiff joints and what have you. I've seen a few people with breakages and whatnot. So I took it to the heater beside me there, over the candle. Not too close. But yes, he was my bit of pickup that arrived last
Very
week.
cool. Love it.
He's got a few spare accessories, a trident and a sword there, and of course he has his bow in his hand already, and he has a bit of a quiver, with some arrows there. So it's a bit of a arrow in my quiver, shall we say? So yes, and that's my pickup for the week, I believe we say, and I picked up one other figure too, but it's a bit of a mystery, which I will, if we have, well, we should have time really, but I'll show towards the end of this live show. So sit in, everybody, for the long haul, as you say, and be patient, and we'll learn a bit about the races and what have you, and the factions there, and just stay tuned to the end, and I'll show you all that figure. But of course, I did a bit of custom work on it to prepare it for today also.
Nice.
And
Sounds like someone was looking at
little bit of soft
syllabus
goods
already.
going on there. I see
Yeah.
a few in the cabal like to use a bit of the soft goods and what have you. So yes, I had to play around with that as well. So yes, he took a rather big dent out of the gold purse there. That's another thing you have to be mindful of with Mythic Legions. They are a little on the pricey side, but it comes with the territory, I guess. But we all hope for something better in the future, perhaps. We'll see how things go.
Absolutely.
So that's me, really.
So who else has some good picks this week?
Good is the thing.
How are you doing there, sir?
Let's go on the Father Christmas side of things. Apparently mine was delivered.
Okay.
Oh yes,
blow it up here.
I remember that.
There's no personal info if I blow that up
Nah,
too big.
I mean, no, I blocked it, I think. And so was expecting it yesterday, and that, wherever that is not where it's supposed to be left.
So it's just been left out on the street there, outside work,
It was yesterday. It was delivered at work, and we're a pretty public place. We get FedEx, UPS, USPS stuff brought in every single day.
You would think fail. The old post store would bring it in the door for you, and for the reception,
I mean,
whatever.
It's a really public place. Yeah. I actually by trade am a teacher, so it's a public school. We get stuff all the time. It was 10:45 in the morning. Maybe homeboy had a rough day. I don't know, but he just left it out there. So I'll see. I didn't even think about it that day. I got so caught up in work, and I shot straight home, and then looked at it, and I was like, oh, it was delivered. And then I saw the little photo. I was like, ooh. So we'll see on
I
Monday.
Hope there's a little
we'll see on
Christmas
Monday.
miracle there, so
Yeah,
hopefully.
it could be there. Who knows? And then
You
the
never
other
know.
piece, to go back to this, and I was scrambling on this other computer here to kind of figure out who it was. Someone gave me the idea. Someone else had done this already, but his name is Inigo Montoya.
Oh yeah.
You killed my father.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
And if you paint this kind of a purple lavender color, right?
Oh, yes.
He becomes and some other things. He becomes a very cool. I saw someone do a Prince Adam. So that's what I'm looking to do with this fella.
That's pretty cool.
And then the only other thing that I kind of ordered isn't here yet, but I'll just maybe save it for next time. It's a let's just say it's a swole bryophytus. And I'll leave it there. We'll talk about it maybe next time.
Oh, very good.
That sounds rather exciting.
It's not Mythic Legions, but it's essentially a swole bryophytus.
Well, I'm digging the idea of using Inigo Montoya for a Prince Adam. That actually sounds really, really neat. So I'd be happy to see that if that's the direction you're going. And which
I just want to say I was trying to look for it. It wasn't my original idea. I saw it from somewhere. I was trying to figure out who it was, but I couldn't find it. I'll figure it out.
Sure. Well, when you do, we'll plug them some credit, let them know, hey, got the idea from so-and-so, because always share credit when it's due, folks. I mean, everybody's sharing ideas. It's great, but definitely give credit to the originators of the idea. And, the person you saw it from may not have even originated the idea sometimes. It happens, but try to when you can. It's always appreciated.
Yes, I come up with the idea there just recently, since getting into this line, of course, it is a bit pricey too, but if you are skilled, I guess, you can come up with your own characters if you have the right sort of putties and you're kind of good at sculpting there. So I started sculpting a bit of a half-breed character. So he's a mix between a bit of a dragonborn and an ogre. So there's his head there. Of course, it hasn't got the old ball joints socket sculpted under the head there. But yes, I worked on a little story for him, which is borrowed from my my dragonborn character back in my D&D days, shall we say? So
awesome. That's a lot bigger than I thought it was. From the pictures I saw.
He kind of woke up in the middle of nowhere, as it were, and not knowing where he was from, and so forth. But really, he was kept hidden by his orc family because they don't really intermarry with other species. Of course, being half dragonborn and half orc, his father died in a great war, but his family kept him hidden when he was rather young. But of course, he was discovered and cast out from the tribe, as it were. But his mother, to save him heartache, she wiped his memory with a special spell, so he would not remember who he was or have any pain from being separated from his family. So he was cast out by a spell of one of the orc elders there, and he ended up in another dimensional plane or a world where he was picked up by some, shall we say, slavers or what have you, and he was sold to be trained as a gladiator. Yeah, so I sculpted a little bit of armor for him as well, like a roughly made gladiatorial armor, shall we say? So that will just fit on his shoulder there like that, and what have you.
That is really awesome.
A bit of a Mythic Legion style character, custom sculpt work that I'm working on there.
So as Eldor, as
he is a rather big figure, roughly about the size of I believe the troll type figures you can buy with Mythic Legions there.
I was wondering, since you're kind of new to Mythic Legions and kind of exploring how they're put together, is that at all informing how you're making that figure or other figures?
Well, yes, I've sculpted ball joints and what have you before on another little project I did for the Masters of the Universe Origins Mosquito. I made him a bit of a backpack there with a few legs and two sockets for some wings there. So his legs operate on that ball joint system and what have you. Cool. So you just sculpt a little bit of a ball joint, but of course on the neck part here, I just used a bit of a bead there you can buy at
Gotcha.
the old craft places. And so that
Nice.
was
Great.
just glued in, but with a bit of milliput to secure it on there. And I had to cover up the little hole of the bead. But you can get them in various sizes if you're not skilled at sculpting a bowl from scratch. It
Mhm.
is a bit of touch and go to get that all nice and perfect and
Mhm.
round and so forth. But you can do that. And just when you go to sculpting the socket with a bit of a soft putty there, you just sort of you can have a ball type tool there and just punch it in the middle there and gently work it out to make the socket a bit bigger. And I tend to use the old Tamiya epoxy putty because it's much more of a softer putty than the Milliput. Milliput tends to dry a bit rock hard, so it's probably not very good for the pop and match of the ball joints and
That's
such.
very, very cool.
So
very
I
cool.
use the Tamiya epoxy, which sets a little bit more softer, shall we say, like a hard rubber, like you'd almost have the soft plastic on an action figure and what have you to pop all the arms and heads or whatever
Mhm.
in place.
Very cool. Awesome.
But
So I
finding the
did want
right
to.
casting materials too is key to have a nice soft plastic that you can make your casts with and so on.
Excellent.
Continue
Excellent.
there, Oz, sir.
Yeah. So I wanted to back up into the chat real quick here because Damon had a question. So he was asking, do you guys know if the ogre accessory pack head, Beard's head, will work with Shadow Equadron?
Mhm.
Equidron.
I
Equadron?
believe you have
And
to make sure what point O on the bodies you get, I suppose.
So those sets are for the ogre scale, so the 9-inch figure. So I already have Equidron's head off, so it fits on this peg. You pop that off, and then you can pop the neck piece off. It's kind of like the Taurian and the
Mhm.
Jagualians, where they have the extra shoulder bit, and then you've got the normal ogre size neck peg, so you could put any ogre head onto that body. So that noble Birch set, as they call it, for that ogre scale pack or accessories pack, will fit on this if you remove the horse style junction.
nice. Nice. And thank you, Jess, for having that ready to go.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
Well,
see it.
thank you, Damien. I see your comment there. So cool. Well,
So
thanks. It's a
definitely
bit of a
popping
work
down
in
here,
progress there.
catching up a little bit with the chat here. Gamer Bud's getting real drawn into the Alithia's brood, so that's interesting.
Oh,
And my big sis, Carol, has joined the chat for the evening.
oh,
Hello, Carol. Thank you
good
for
evening there,
stopping in.
Carol.
And she was in the chat last night, joined us in while I was opening up Father Christmas. That figure
Oh,
actually
yes,
means a
yes.
lot to both her and I, so that's really awesome. Figuratively speaking is in the house, saying hello to Oz and everybody here.
Hello,
What's
sir.
going
What's
on, buddy?
up?
All right, so that about catches us up in there. All right, so anybody else with any great picks this week?
Jesse,
No?
you want to do
Oh,
it?
did you have a Furious 2 there, Brick something? You hadn't opened him yet. Is that
Yeah,
you, or-
he's I've got a couple of things still sitting in boxes, but yeah,
sure
he's
you
there
have.
waiting to be freed. You know,
He's-
He's a bit of
Waiting
work
to-
to get all those ties undone, though. I don't know if you saw my live stream there, but with my old arthritis in my hands, boy, it was a bit of work there. They don't want them falling out, do they?
All right then. Well, if nobody's got anything else to show off tonight,
Well,
should we start?
I got a couple things.
there.
I
what you
just
got?
There we
wanted
go.
to see if Jesse had anything or not. So,
Oh,
No.
I see.
Yeah.
so
Just do dual unboxings. Go for it.
dual unbox.
Same time. Everybody start
Rip it
throwing up
open
everything.
there.
Go
All
for
right.
it. Go for it.
So,
It's close
Like,
to
like
Christmas.
there's no tomorrow.
there's
Go for it,
stories.
yes.
There's a story behind this stuff actually, and this
All
is
right.
my. Yes, Sean, there is a Santa Claus Christmas because in the last 6 or 7 months, I had to make some hard choices because of my situation
yes.
right now, where my wife has been out of work and we've been staying afloat by me leveraging some of my collection at times. And I ended up but selling some key figures that I was hoping not to sell. But at the time I was like, well, choices have to be made. And in the last couple weeks, out of nowhere, these random things start happening. And I'm like, this is really crazy how this is working out. Because I sold some high dollar figures and suddenly they're just back in orbit around me again. And I'm like, how did this work? And I'm not even questioning it anymore. I'm just happy. So I'll start with this guy. And I did pop and swap some stuff on him. So, but the big bad boy himself, Atlas, the Conqueror, the leader of the Noble Bear clan. I did this with my last one too. I popped and swapped him because his typical look is silver. All of his armor is silver, and it drives me crazy. It's too clean. This guy looks like he's been and seen and done stuff. And I did not like the cleanliness of that, so I always pop and swap with more of the gunmetal and more darker pieces to give him more of like a brooding and, you know, more savage look. But I got him by, I found a post in the Cabal of someone who all he was asking for was the horse from the Headless Horseman in trade. And I'm like, it can't be this easy. It was. That's all. I had to send it to Canada. That's the only tricky part. So there was a customs form involved. That was it. And I got back Atlas, who is a pretty high dollar figure. So he was one of my first big wins of the week. And
That's
then
great.
I ended up finding a sales post like a day or two before I got paid. And this person he wasn't complete, but I was completely happy for the fact that I didn't have to pay $300 to $400 on eBay. I got back Scapular, the Crypt Breaker. The only thing missing is the shield. So I have to figure out the shield. Jesse said he'd be nice enough to help me out with that by doing a custom. But I'd also eventually like to try to get the actual shield just to feel complete. But that the Jesse shield will be great as that, like, you know, it'll be here. He'll look pretty damn close. So I'll be happy with that. But I was thrilled to at least get him. And then the big ones that I haven't even revealed on the Cabal yet, got them just late last night. This one, I did a trade for the Masters of the Universe Classics Griffin to Anthony Halseal in the Cabal, who's a huge dwarf fan. And he goes, hey, I hear you're looking for this guy because I had to sell this one. And I'm like, I would absolutely love to have him back. And he goes, how about the Griffin? Absolutely. So one less Classics figure, but one more Mythics figure. Simple as that. And then the big one that really shocked the heck out of me, speaking of David Williams earlier, again, this came in late last night as well. I get a message from him because he and I and another person in the Cabal, Dusty Standiford, Dusty and I started a thing on the Cabal called the Cabal Creations Challenge, which is anybody who likes to do drawing, painting, anything. Because basically, if you don't customize, but you want to do something creative to celebrate the line, that's a good way to break in and enjoy it. And then you can post your artwork, and, you know, like even people like Cornboy from the Four Horsemen will chime in and give props to people when he really appreciates stuff.
I might let Eldor Bob know about that little segment there.
Yeah,
he's a bit of an artist.
But that's like a new thing we just started in the last month, ever since Legions Con ended. We just put up the second post actually last night. But David got a huge response, really positive response he did a Necronominus that was insanely beautiful. And then on top of that, he posted like 12 other pictures he did, like almost, I want to say they were around the same time. And he's like, I was sick. I didn't have much to do. I just started drawing Mythics, and he just went crazy. And he posted them all, and it's gotten such a great feedback, and he was so happy. He goes, hey, I heard you're looking for an Equidron. How about this one? This is the 20th anniversary Equidron, not the Shadow Equidron. This is the one celebrating the Horseman's anniversary being in business. And so now I have both Equidrons, which blew my mind.
That's
plus
great.
2 of the main faction leaders. So yes, Sean, there is a Santa Claus. That's all I got to say about that. I was like mind blown this week when all this stuff started arriving, and like for every time I had to send something out recently, and my wife saw that it was steadily, I was like, here I go again, and just walking out to the car with my boxes to go send them out. And that day, I'm bringing boxes in, and she saw me lighting up, and she's just like, okay, he's himself again. He's got some goodies instead of selling them again. So yeah. So,
great trades, man. That's great.
yeah, I have no complaints at all. I'm still stunned. That Atlas one in particular is still like, that's all that it is. That you just want the horse. Like, there's no other strings attached to this. Like, he's just like, I think that's a fair trade. That's what I want. Sold. Like, I'm happy. Let's do this. So, yeah.
Well done. I think you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
I better have a bit of a drink there myself, sir.
So I totally muted myself earlier because I had to cough, and while you were talking, Sean, completely forgot I was muted.
It happens. It happens.
That's wonderful. You can tell I'm a real pro at this stuff, right?
Oh, we're all friends here. It's okay.
That's right.
What is it they say? Silence is golden.
Yeah.
Get rich.
All right. And Jesse, anything to show off now that everybody else is really kind of on round table here?
I forgot. It's not figures. I mean, like I said, I did get Father Christmas, but I got I missed getting it at Legion's Con, but I got the Trevor Williams figures and fantasy calendar. It's mostly Mythic Legions figures, but there is some other stuff in there. He 1/6 shooter on Instagram and stuff. It's an awesome calendar for next year with a bunch of his great photography. And then one of the guys from the Cabal that I did I bought some soft goods off earlier this year, sent me a surprise package with, he makes up these wanted posters for
Oh, yes, I saw those.
members in the Cabal. So he took
nice.
the AI generated image I currently have with my Meep, my little 3-eyed bunny from my comic. You can't see it on the screen here, but yeah, so I have a handful of wanted posters of myself now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's good to
and
feel
his name
wanted.
is Brian Peacock, and he does heavy hammer props. He does soft goods and some other things for Mythic Legions and other figures.
Jesse, if you could, for both of those guys, shoot me their links or put them in the comments section, and that way we can make sure that people can go check them out, because I am all about it. Yeah, so since the last episode, I've fully jumped in and joined in with the Cabal and been loving it in there, because everybody knows I actually don't do the Facebook thing too much anymore. I'm mostly on IG. If you see a post from me on Facebook, most of the time it's because I shared it from IG to Facebook.
Yes, I jumped in on the old Cabal there, shared a few things and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been enjoying seeing what everybody else posts and what they're working on or getting.
Yes, I agree.
See one fellow doing his own diorama buildings there with the old popsicle sticks and what have you. He's made himself a little inn there also. So he's working out a full city, I think he said in the chat there on the group. So I hope he has a lot of room to display all those pieces. Of course, they're all roughly the figure size too, mind you.
Definitely. All right, guys. So with having enjoyed jumping in and joining the Cabal and seeing the kind of community behind everything, I've really been wanting to get to know a little bit more. I've been on the Source Horseman looking at some stuff, but I wanted to share it with everybody else who may be a little on the lazier side and didn't jump on there after our last episode. And that kind of brings us to tonight's main topic, the world of Mythos. For those of you that don't know or haven't seen yet, that the Mythic Legions world is called Mythos. So that kind of brought us to tonight's title being the world of Mythos. And we want to dive into what's creating this world and like where it comes from and who's in it. So Brick did a wonderful, wonderful job putting together a bit of slideshow for us tonight. Very reminiscent to mine and Skelevator's old Toy Frenzy slideshows that we used to like to get into so much. But Brick has gone above and beyond putting together this amazing slideshow that we're going to get into.
Yes, he's been a rather busy bee there.
Yes, absolutely.
It's looking rather good.
We're going to go ahead and jump into that now here. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. And if you want to go ahead and take the reins from there, Brick.
Yep. Cool. All right. Then I guess officially class is in session. Welcome to Legions class, our second class.
Take textbooks out, everybody. Take your notes.
So as Oz has laid out, today we're going to start delving into the world of Mythos, and I think we're going to do kind of a high-level big picture about how the world itself was created. Then we'll take a little segue into how things are sort of organized socially, right, in this world, and look at the factions. And then look at the different beings that exist in this world, the races. And so that's what we're about to do. Welcome to Legions class. Yep, get ready to take notes. We got the little projector screen up, and I think we're good to go. Old school. This is all with a, what do you call it? Like the transparency overhead projector. That's what we got going on here.
Yeah. Click.
So yeah, let's go ahead and start with the world of Mythos, and actually I'll kind of open it up. I don't know if anybody else wanted to kind of just talk it and just take us through what this map is and sort of how these two beings come into play.
All right, I can tee up for that one. I think that's the appropriate expression.
He teed you up for it.
Oh, okay. All right.
There
See,
you go.
yeah, I'm not a sports guy. Go Blue
Sports
Jays.
Ball.
So obviously in the middle we've got the map of Mythos, which shows largely the main 4 heroic realms, and then you can see where the other places are on the map. They've referenced places that are mentioned in the bios on all of the figure cards. So currently there is no book property existing for these, but there's story built into all the bio cards. And they've said,
I believe
you know,
the books are being worked on.
Yep.
Yes.
So they've learned through doing Mythic Legions, and they're approaching the Cosmic Legions differently, where they're working the story into it from the beginning. And now they are working on a large kind of coffee table style art storybook that is going to be an actual narrative telling the whole details. And it's called Book 1 or Volume 1. So they do, sounds like they plan on doing more. But on the sides of the image, let's see. Wait, don't shoot spitwads at me if I'm the teacher.
Well, they might get you into might get you in detention there. So.
Yeah, I took one straight to the head.
So if the way it looks to me, on the left is the female figure, and on the right is the male figure. So the female is Selene, and on the right is Helios. So they're basically god deity like beings that I don't know all the details, but there's something existed before, and then together they fell in love and they created this new world, this place called Mythos. In the Source Horseman, they do call it the Earth on the creation myth story. So I don't know if Mythos is specifically this portion of the map, kind of like Westeros is on, the main part of the map for Game of Thrones, and yes. I'm not sure if they're going to flesh that out more or not, but for all intents and purposes,
I was thinking about that today, really, when I had seen the map there on the old presentation. I was wondering if there might be other lands worked in down the track, so maybe that's not the only part on that world, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is all we've seen at the moment, but I feel like some of the bios reference places that at least don't have points on the map, or maybe
yes.
they're in lands that we've not explored yet. So, so they created this world, they created all the beings, and Helios, the guy on the right, he got jealous of how much Selene, the goddess, was giving her attention to the creations they made. So he gets bitter, and he goes into hiding, does some stuff, and creates the bad things. Leads to the rise of war and all these things, and then he creates or somehow lets out what's known as the Dark Four, which are the four horsemen that they've just finished. So you've got the four Erethyr, Ilithia, Paxus, and Necronominus. So they come, they bring war and devastation. Then these heroic beings called the Great Beasts come. Aetheron the Eagle, Basilia, who is depicted as maybe a snake or human snake-like creature, Xylona, the Elder Frost Deer, and Leodicius the Lion. So they fight off the Dark Four, they get banished, and shortly after they're banished, the world's at peace, and the heroic beasts, the great beasts, kind of disappear from the realms, and the world kind of turns on, and that's all in what they call the First Age. Now we're centuries later, and the current storyline that the figures that being released are telling is the return or the rise of the Dark Force. So it's the return of those four evil beings back to Mythos, and that's where the main storyline is taking place now.
But I see darkness is on the horizon there, though.
Oh yes.
Oh dear.
Before going sort of on, I'm just curious, and feel free to give us faces again. So just there was some comments talking about the art. Do either of you know, is this Nate's work? Is this somebody else's work from the Horsemen? The sketches of Selene and Helios, and then the map work?
Those sketches, I'm pretty sure, Eric Treadaway, the sculptor and the mastermind behind a lot of the lore. And the map should have been Nate Barch, because I think he was selling prints of that when we were at Legions Con. So, and he's their go-to guy for anything art related and stuff. But yeah, like if you go on Source Horseman, you'll get to see some like versions of stuff that Eric might have drew a couple years back, or however many years back, and you get to see that was the initial conception. But then when you see what it turns into now, you could see, based on what they've created in the figure line, now he could amp things up a little more than he expected, maybe when he first.
I believe old Nate Barch likes to weave a bit of a story into his artwork. He was going over the Headless Horseman there, I think, over on Mythic Customs channel, and he was talking about how the spirits come out at night and what have you. And he had the old Headless Horseman there coming out of the fiery, I don't know, spectre of a portal or whatever. So, yes.
And I just, to go aside a little bit, you mentioned Game of Thrones at some point. I love this sort of thing. This established. It's a fantasy. It's a feature of fantasy, right? Of this notion of creating the world and kind of going as far back to the creation and kind of setting up maybe some of the rules, some of the magic, etc. So I'm totally a sucker for this. Like, I gravitated to when I found this stuff online. I'm just like, oh, I want to read it. I want to, soak it in. And so,
of course, if you recall, with each season that came out, you had a different portion of the map shown on the intro there. I think they
Game of Thrones,
different parts of
Yeah, and I love this kind of thing. So I really appreciate that they sort of started from this place and gave it this sort of this centuries or more history prior, and sort of we're thrown into this moment later, because it just creates a whole lot of play opportunities, some future characters, as things get as things develop. So I love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the thing that's interesting about the line is if you just find it as a toy line, you're going to be drawn to whatever it is that you never had as a kid, but always hoped you could have. Like, for me, I remember, like, the skeleton figures were mind-blowing to me because they didn't make anything like that. The closest I had like that when I was a kid was Skeletor or Scareglow, you know, and
Mhm.
now all of a sudden we have all these skeleton warriors that you could have as an army, and then they have
Mhm.
all these crazy demons showing up, and it's like these things are like they're out there. You can get them, you know, vampires, all this stuff. But then when you actually dig into it and you find out, oh, they actually have a lore to this. They actually have some meat on the bones. It's not just these really cool figures. Then you can appreciate even more how much, you know, like this opens up the world completely. But I, like a friend of mine was saying, yeah, there isn't a story that he could find and gravitate towards. And I feel like ever since he made that comment and it was addressed by Jeremy Gerard, now I feel like they're really pushing for that within Mythic Legions more than they ever did, because I think there are people who they looked at the line and initially felt like, well, what about this is interesting to me other than here's cool figures?
Mhm.
What does it mean? Like we've had people in the chat last time we did our episode where they wanted to know, well, what's the lore? What is the overarching mythology of this world? You know, and so it's like it's out there. It's definitely out there, and it's kind of cool the setup of it really with the bad
Yep.
four, the big bad four, and the big good four, you know, and all that.
So Gamer Bud, yes. Well, all four of the horseman figures have been revealed. So Aether, with the Aether wave a couple years ago, they started releasing the four big bads. So each of them comes with a horse, not comes with, but has a horse that pairs with them, and they're basically the dark gods of their factions. And so you've got Aether, who is like represents war. You got Alithia, the vampire, who represents famine. Poxus is kind of the plague lich, who represents pestilence. And then, of course, Necronominus is the skeleton with his skeletal horse that represents death. So they've all been announced. You not to plug, but if you want to get into it, the the Necronominus wave is currently up for pre-order on Store Horseman until January 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you have to have a horse or two, of course, of course.
Of course.
Yeah,
And
and I also appreciate that story point of kind of, well, the company's called Four Horsemen for a reason. I'm sure they've been probably obsessed with the Book of Revelation horsemen, but I appreciate that sort of
Oh,
like
yes.
building on,
The
and there's
horsemen
a
of the
lot of that.
apocalypse, eh?
Yeah, there's a lot of that sort of weaving in things that we might be familiar with here on Earth into this, and I love it. Good stuff.
And a fun thing about, if you don't have to zoom in, but for folks at home, if you look at the Source Horseman page and you look at the pictures of Selene and Helios there, Selene bears a very striking resemblance to Alithia, the vampire queen, and Helios has a very striking resemblance to Aether. And there are details of other characters in them, so I don't know, because these are older sketches, is if this is their final form, if they ever make figures of these two, that's how they'll look. But it's just nice to see that thought of,
Mhm.
you know, that shared imagery getting passed on, because essentially all these characters are their children and their
Right.
creation. So like Aetheron's helmet, the winged eagle, there's similarities in Helios's headpiece there that kind of match that, and their ears and their face structure and stuff. So it's just really cool.
Yep.
I think.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. And I can't. I'm in line for whenever they get to an art of Mythic Legions, not sort of the story thing, but really kind of the sketches and the concept art and seeing how things develop. Anyway, more to come.
I see with the game coming out soon, that will probably help to get the name out there a bit more. And of course, the books too. I know there's a lot of people that like the fantasy genre, and they might have a few books on their bookcases there with touching on all that and so forth. But yes, it really needs that sort of media to help spread the word, as it were. Because you know the grapevine only grows so far, as it were.
Well, the other thing too with the game, if I remember right, like the game is making them flesh out the environment more than they have up until this point. So, like when I was at intern for the day, they have like a key moment of like Aether and him getting brought back, and they had to set up like the whole environment of what that place looks like, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like the game, I feel like, is pushing the narrative, and it's also pushing the visuals further than they could based on just putting out waves of toys at this point. So that's going to be
I see
another
there's
thing
been a
that
big
really
call from the fantasy type and the series in the entertainment world there. So we've had Willow just come out there, and of course the new Game of Thrones prequel, if you will, with the House of the Dragon there, and what else we had? The Lord of the Rings, Power of the Ring, I think it's called, come out. So it's a few of those fantasy type series coming out as well.
Well, that stuff's never gone away since the early 2000s, because once Lord of the Rings hit, that opened up the door to people appreciating it. It isn't just kid stuff, because when you saw it on the big screen, and I mean, like, I remember going to the theater and seeing Fellowship of the Ring, and I went back, saw that like 4 or 5 times that holiday season, because I couldn't get over. I got sucked into that world every single time I went to see that movie, and I just could not get over the experience of that. And things like Game of Thrones are helping people have that experience as well. And Willow coming back now, and like you're saying and stuff. So it's like this. It's like right place, right time with this toy line in particular, and the amount of stuff they've already done, as well as the amount of stuff that's already going to be coming out that we know of. It's like it's perfect storm of this.
I suppose it's peaked up and down during the generations, because back in the 80s you had like Kroll and Masters of the Universe movie, of course the cartoon as well, and Dungeons and Dragons cartoon there, and different fantasy genres. What was that other one with the Schwarzenegger fellow?
Conan, Excalibur, Red
Red
Sonja. Yeah,
Oh,
love
man,
that.
I think
Beastmaster.
My favorite there, the old all those comedy fellows with the
Monty Python.
Yes, that's the fellows. I rather enjoyed them. They did the old Holy Grail there, and the man-eating rabbit.
but you're also proving that it's never gone away, because Monty Python and the Holy Grail is from the 60s, and all through the years, there's always been a key point where this has drawn interest again. Like, I mean, the 50s and 60s also saw the rise of Robert E. Howard with Conan. Back then, the Frank Frazetta artwork made that stuff fire for a whole new generation.
I mean, they even touched that genre. We had the Power Rangers there and what have you, but in amongst after those came out, we had the Mystic Knights of Tina Nog. So there was kind of like a fantasy type Power Ranger series where they had to go and quest to find their special power armor or whatever. And they each had their own individual challenges to attain their power armor and what have you. So it's been mixed in with that as well, I guess.
Yeah, definitely doesn't go away. But I wanted to address Thanos Copter's question here.
Oh, yes.
For late starters, will they re-release the Horsemen at some point in an all-star wave?
It's I know, except for the Power Rangers. You said Power Ranger. Now it's in my head.
Sorry.
The PowerCon tribute figures, or the PowerCon debut figures. So the Masters of the Universe looking characters, they won't get re-released, because it was just kind of a fun thing to nod with their past work with Mattel and Motu and all that.
Yes, I believe Sir Gerard said much of that not everything will be coming back.
Right, and I think there's a few specific characters that were like the Kickstarter exclusives, things that were meant to be special that won't be up for All Stars. But I believe almost anything is available for an All-Star, Sean. I believe that's what they have said. It all just depends on how they do it, because they're so far in now.
Yeah.
And they're with All-Stars 5+, they added a whole bunch of new characters and only 3 re-releases.
Yeah.
So,
and the way they do the All-Stars now, it's more of like a voting process, and they'll give you, here's characters that their older characters here's like we're gonna whittle them down almost like a March Madness kind of a deal, and you just whittle it down to the main like 3 from each line of the picture that they show you, and then you get that going on, but then they add a little bit more. Like I know they were saying the Necronominus wave that they just announced there, that will be leading into All Stars 6 this spring or whatever. So they're doing it a little bit differently, but as far as I'm aware as well, the only figures that they won't have on the table to do an All Stars for is any tribute figures. So the Masters of the Universe ones, I think that might even count for Rhaegor because he was a tribute to a fan, and I like that's kind of why those figures are so freaking astronomical for the price you're going to pay for them. But they will re-release others, and the other thing is, they started doing the 2.0s. So if you don't get a certain one, there might be a re-release as a 2.0 where you're going to get it like Gideon, for instance. Sir Gideon, he was in the first Kickstarter wave, and he was a basic looking knight, but you could see his face. And now he's got a horse. He's dressed to the nines, soft goods, crazy armor and everything, and multiple face options. And it's like, you might, if you don't get a version that's the original version, you might get an upgrade that is even better, possibly in the future.
I see Thanos Copter saying wants to get Aerithir. See the 4 horsemen, the Dark 4, they really only started coming out physically in hands last year. So Aerithir wave hit last summer, early last fall, I think.
The pre-order for it was like a year before that, but yeah, a lot of people.
But like actually coming out,
so last year, yeah,
they've had him and his horse at almost all the shows I think they've done in the past year. So if you can, or have someone who can go for you to a show that the horsemen themselves set up at, you can probably still land Alithia and Phobos, the vampire, and her horse, and Aerithir and Aethon, his horse. So they're the only 2 that are actually out in people's hands at this point.
The other thing too, real quick, Brick, did you want to say something? Sorry.
No.
I just wanted to say, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we both kind of agreed that anything pretty much like Aerithir wave on is now like, it's hard to find that stuff for ridiculous prices because they made so many of them and they were so prevalent, and the market had a bunch of them at that point. It wasn't like, oh, the pre-order is just for the people who pre-ordered this stuff now. So Aerithir, Aethon, Alithia, Phobos, those are going to be ones you could probably find for darn close to secondary market prices. And if you go to any of the conventions that the horsemen are going to be at, if you're able to, or if you know someone who will go to that, they can get them for you at the price of what the pre-order was originally, or close to that. So one way or the other, if you want those figures, it's not like because you missed out a year ago, you're not going to be able to get them for a reasonable price still. So the line kind of like blew the roof off the joint around the Aerithir wave. And ever since then, I feel like it's gotten bigger and bigger each time.
Right. So we had a couple of latecomers to class I wanted to highlight. We have Moose, who has joined us now, as well as Scott Baker has jumped in with us.
Scott Baker.
And so you guys, we'll let it slide this time, but gotta be on time for class next time.
We're watching you.
You know what? You got to go ahead and hit the like button now, and then sign in on an alternate account and hit a like button again.
And make sure you have your whole pass there, as it were.
Make sure you hit subscribe as well, please. Yeah, thank you.
Good work.
Just kidding, guys. Thanks for coming out and joining us for the show tonight. Really appreciate it. All right, so we've kind of gone over the map, the creation here, and the start of the world. So let's go into a little bit more with, leading into the next part where we're going to start talking about the races that make this world.
Yeah. So actually, let's before that, we're switching up the lesson plan a little bit, and actually we're gonna move over to factions real quick because that'll give us a little bit more of a sense of how, I guess, life in Mythos during this time is sort
just
of
a point
organized.
of reference too. I also have the Source Horseman tab up there in case you need help with any referrals.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, and so Jesse, I can just sort of like, I guess we can roll. Well, let's roll columns. So, and these are the different brands, right? As I quickly sort of sketch this in chalk on the board. That's the
your art skills are fantastic.
I was
love that, man. I'm so fast.
When Nate Bartz retires, you got a job, man. I can tell you that much.
You should see what I can do with a dry erase marker. All right, so
well, geez.
Yeah, so we've got, sorry, that was the Army of Leodicius. And then we've got the Legion of Erethyr. Speaking of,
There we go.
the Order of Aetheron, the Congregation of Necronomus, Xylonus Flock, Lithia's Brood, and if you needed some tattoos, these are some good ones to get.
Absolutely.
The Convocation of Basilia, the Circle of Poxus, and the House of the Noble Bear. And
there's one more.
Oh,
Yeah,
there is actually
more,
sort of there on the side. We've got the Sons of the Red Star.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right,
so essentially you have four heroic factions, 4 evil factions, and then each there's kind of like splinter factions that are largely good or largely like one pairs with each one. And I believe there might be some more factions that they have not revealed yet. I believe I've heard somewhere. So this might not be all of it. That's just where it's at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And each faction except for Noble Bear and Sons of the Red Star, clearly they align with the 4 great beasts or the dark 4 evil gods. So
just gonna reload. Cool. And then as far as like getting us into the races, is there do you want to kind of name who sort of aligned, or I don't know how that all works? Yeah.
So the Army of Leodicius is kind of it's a catch-all. Like the heroic race, actually they kind of spread out a lot, but Army of Leodicius has a lot of human characters, a lot of human warriors, knights. That's a little more of not your barbarians, because the barbarians are the Noble Bear, but it's the Army of Leodicius. So they're the army. So you've got more knights and that sort of thing.
They have more like Vitus is also part of that.
Yeah.
Knights and Spartan sort of warrior characters.
And they call them Mercurians in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think was it Kauros being the exception there. Been a bit of a different species by the look of it.
The heroic factions largely have, I mean, all of them kind of support a lot of different races, but primarily Leodicius is human. But yeah, Kauros is one of the Jagualians. He's in there. And there's some other stuff as well. Army of Erethyr is probably the Legions of Erethyr is the most diverse on the evil side, because that's just anybody that's bad can be in there. Largely the impure, which are the trolls, ogres, goblins, orcs, those sorts of things. But demons are also a part of that. Humans are a part of it. There are dwarves that are a part of it. So
it's the catch-all.
Yeah. Order of Aetheron, I know they have a sub-faction within them called the Templars, who were the defenders of the Temple of Aetheron. And I don't know if it was the whole order or if it was just the Templars were exclusively human for a long time, but they're starting to open their ranks to other races. But it's largely humans, but there are other things. There's even some angels and other beings in that faction as well.
Is that Gadriel? Is it Gadriel there?
Yep.
And Ithron, of course, being the birdie fellow, god fellow, what have you.
Uh-huh.
For me, I'll just say this real quick. For me, the Order of Aetheron is the one that I probably collect the least because there's this more standard looking knight figures. And when I first saw those, I was like, that's nice. What about these barbarian guys? So I am going to get into some of those because the Sir Gideon that they have is absolutely gorgeous. But the knights are definitely not my happy spot. I need some barbarians and some crazy. So.
I do like the dwarves there, and I see Sir Valgard is in that group.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a bit of a dwarf
So,
there.
Whereas Army of Odysseus and Legion of Aether are more I mean, they're all military based to some extent, but they're largely armies. That's their function. Whereas the Order of Aetheron has a more of a religious side to it. So the Templars, they have the cross, but these are not meant to be, like Christian Templars from our world. The cross is representative of the Heaven's brand sword that you can see on the eagle there. So that's where that cross comes from. Because I was curious about that. I'm like, how do you get Templars in this world when there's no? and then I learned. And then
Although, mind you, He-Man back in the early days, he had the old cross there on his armor and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I guess
it's
it's
a symbol used out about there.
Yeah, and again, it's this borrowing the entire idea of these four horsemen representing pestilence and death and
Mm-hmm.
war, same kind of thing, just borrowing and putting it in this fantastic world. Very cool. Before we sort of move on, I did sort of how aware to tie this back to what we were talking about with the world of Mythos. Like you mentioned, Aetheron, there is the actual bird god, and so I assume, well, I guess the question is, how aware are the beings that we know and the heroes and these characters, how aware are they of the whole Selene and Helios kind of level of reality? Is that a thing that they aware of, worship, or how does that work?
My understanding is that currently the four great beasts and the dark four, the four horsemen, are more or less the gods of the world. So I don't know how aware the general populace at the time of the story are aware of Helios and Selene, because they're kind of not involved in the world, at least as far as I know. So I'm not sure how much they know about them. It might be, the creation myth. I'm assuming since they're sharing it with all of us, like there's elements of it that people know about, but these four are a little more real because they name their armies after these beings.
Cool. All right.
And Congregation of Necronominus again follow, and you'll notice most of these factions, they kind of are opposite sides to the same coin to each other. So Order of Aetheron has a religious slant to it. So does the Congregation of Necronominus. It's right in the name. It's very much a like death cult kind of a thing. It's not just skeletons. We all thought it was skeletons for the longest time, except for Hagnon the Ghost, but he was skeleton part, so he was kind of the same thing.
And
but
we
now
just
they've
had Necronominus' daughter announced there, I think.
Yep, the newest, the fourth child, the fourth child that we didn't know about, is I believe she's listed as a ghoul, but there's also zombies and ghosts and other things as well. So it's just dead things, not just skeletons now.
I kind of enjoy that whole, like, they're incorporating more to it. Like, I enjoy world building. I enjoy creatures and critters a lot. Hence why I'm so excited about Snowy the puppy. You know, so like I dig the fact that they're willing to dive into that with the factions. Like we're gonna start including again. I mean, yeah, sure. So it's a skeletal horse kind of thing. But they're willing to reach beyond the standard figure and go into more. There's not many brands that'll do that to help flesh out the world. I know NECA for their Alien and Predator series have kind of delved into doing like accessory packs, which include some creatures and stuff like that here. Do you think has there been any mention so far whether they might do like creature packs to help flesh out a little bit more of the world of Mythic Legions, maybe?
Oh yes,
Um,
I see Billy is her name. I think she controls the different various animals there, whether it be undead animals or not. Or I see there was another figure there. He comes with a bit of a bird on his arm.
Yeah, they have Valak. He's got the falcon that he comes with and things like that.
That's
So
it. Yes.
they just started doing some of those things in the last couple of waves. But I think Belualith is one of the first where she comes with multiple things, and with her being the Beastmaster character, that's really like the first of really getting into it. Other than like up until I want to say about a year or two ago, they didn't even have horses. And then when they finally brought out Aethon for the Arethyr figure, and they brought up Balius, that was like everybody had to get a Balius. That was like the hottest commodity in the entire Legion's wave for like 6 months or so.
Yes, I've just pre-ordered 2 of those Boreas horses there from Zylona's flock. I figured Aberius should have a couple of horses displayed with him because he's a bit of a stable lord there, and he trains all the steeds up and what have you.
But I would be curious. I mean, they're doing more with this line than Masters of the Universe did when we were kids, for starters. Like, I mean, the trolls, for instance. I mean, those they take up a huge amount of shelf space, but that's still something different that they put into the line way before even the horses, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I would be curious because the Jaguar. How do you say the name, Jesse? Jaguar Lillians?
The Jagwalians?
Jagwalians, thank you. So those are already a part of it. And then, when you look at the Leodicius, I mean, he probably will be a lion of some sort if they actually make that figure. And it would make me curious how they're going to pull that one off, too. Is he going to be a legit lion? Like, is he going to be like what's his name in Narnia with horns and battle?
Aslan.
Aslan in Narnia. So I'm not.
Yes, I pre-ordered one of the trolls there, the ice troll figure. But they look rather big, I think.
Oh,
so yes, you need lots of space to have those displayed.
But I mean, they're a small baby, basically. But yeah, it is something where they've gone in that direction already. So it really wouldn't shock me if they brought in some other stuff that other lines don't have yet.
Excellent. Awesome. All right. Well, nice aside from that, because my own personal fascination with the critters and the wildlife. Shall we carry on?
Absolutely. So Zylona's flock is my personal favorite faction. This is probably the most diverse, I think, of the good factions. You've got all the different variety of elves. You've got the forest goblins, of which there's only officially one. The lovingly called the fuzz monks. You've got the centaur. You've got fawns, satyrs.
Yes, the Aperius there I showed earlier. Yes.
Yep. So, there's a lot of and this faction is like tied to nature and the elements. So they're a lot more of like your classic fantasy, like woodland elf type themes. So, more in touch with nature and the elements and all that sort of thing.
Yes, I pre-ordered Duban there with his bird on his arm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they do have humans too. So it's not just elves, and it's like I said, I think there are dwarves too. This faction is
and Krotos.
Yep, Krotos is a satyr.
Oh yes.
You've got the forest elemental Faunus and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty wild.
Zylonia there looking like a bit of a goat or what is she? A deer or something?
She's considered she's one of the gods, so she's an elder. I believe they call her an elder frost deer.
I think she leads them, doesn't she?
Well, she's essentially the god Queen Artemis is
so
the
there's a leader under her, is there?
Mhm.
All right.
As of now, none of the beings that are named for the heroic factions exist in the world. So at least the 4 armies: the Laodiceus, Xylona, Aetheron, and we'll get to Basilia. They have disappeared from the world after the banishment of the Dark Four.
All right.
Alithia's brood. I don't remember who it was mentioning the vampires in the comments out there in the chat. But yeah, Alithia's brood is the vampires. They are pretty much the most. There are subspecies. You've got, was it the Vorgir, the ogre scale one, and then you've got the Varg. Is not a name of a character. That is like
yes, I almost brought the Varg figure off the same seller I got Aetherius off there, but no, he was wanting about 100 for him, but I thought I'd done my dash really, so I said no to that one.
It's not exclusively vampires, because I believe the I think someone from one of the PowerCon tributes is PowerCon debuts is aligned with the Alithia wave, or Alithia's brood.
Dragul,
but yeah, it's largely
probably.
Dragul, yeah, because he's a vampire. I can't remember
is the Evelyn figure? No,
I think she's Poxus.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but yeah.
Dragul.
Largely. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just gonna. Dragul is. I'm looking at the site right now, and
because I mean, his alternate head is the full-on vampire head.
Right.
So,
and that's right. He is a vampire. So, okay.
Yeah, vampires. And there's an interesting side note about them. Helios. She is the daughter of Helios, or created by Helios, the male god from the creation story. If you look at her, she's got very similar facial structure and qualities to Selene, which is essentially the moon goddess. Helios is the sun god. So you've got Arethyr is fiery heat and looks a lot like Helios, and Alithia is cold and white and pale like the moon. So I think there's some interesting things we're going to see connecting there.
The other one with Alithia too, that it's a huge fan favorite for a lot of people out there, is Borgus Vermilius. And that is actually a pretty crazy idea. It's an armor that takes your life. So it's a whole different concept to a vampire deal, which I think is really interesting. It's the blood red armor. So,
okay.
Yeah, he was a vampire, and he got tired of the way life was going, so he sought out Zazar and Azahar, the demons in Poxus's wave, and they enchanted his armor, and essentially, so we don't know at this point what, if anything, is inside that armor, or if it's just the armor now.
I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. Like when I was a kid, I had this weird thing, like if I touched Leech, is he gonna suck the life force out of me? Like I was that kid. I honestly, like, that gave me a little bit of anxiety, because he was doing that in the Masters of the Universe mini comic. I'm like, so like when I hear stories like that in Mythic Legions, I'm like, oh, they did their homework with how that worked for me with Masters. And here it is, they're doing it again with this armor now and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, they had an alien race in if any of you watched the Stargate Atlantis, called the Wraiths there, and they touched you, and they sort of drained your life force out until you became a bit of a lifeless husk there, shall we say. And they, of course, they got their strength, and they were rather hard to kill after they had fed on you and so forth.
I definitely enjoyed that show, by the way. Stargate issue. It's a good one.
Anything more on Alithia, or should we move on?
And again, like I said earlier with this stuff, the vampires of this world are, it's a race. It's not just a thing you get turned into. So like the rules of vampires are going to be a little different than the traditional stuff we're used to from our.
So sort of like mosquitoes there, and leeches and what have you.
I mean, could be, but just like with the whole like mirrors and afraid of crosses and all that sort of stuff, like I don't think a lot of those things would apply to them.
Vampire. All right.
Convocation of Basilia. This is another heroic faction that follow Basilia through, you kind of see as the winged serpent. So this faction is, again, it's got a big mix of species. It's led by Hera Serpentspire. All the leaders of the factions take their names from the beings or the weapons that served the heroic beasts. So the Serpentspire is her staff. It's largely based in magic and knowledge and that sort of thing. So they are the
Are they mostly healers and what have you?
I mean, healers, and they're the magic users. So I mean, there are different. So these are essentially where the concentration of like learning and education is in those arts, as opposed to just military training or that sort of thing. So
Tharnog is another one I pre-ordered there. I like to look at him. Tharnog, I pre-ordered him the other day.
They basically the one thing about the Circle of Poxus is, or sorry, not Circle of Poxus, the Convocation is they go up against Circle of Poxus. So a lot of the previous wave, that is where you're gonna get like the meat of a lot of the different characters now, because that one has like a Rakagor, and they also have Samir Scroll Warder, and a lot of those characters were the wizardly, magical sorcerer based kind of characters that they just started putting out.
Oh yes.
Yep. And Circle of Poxus, representing the pestilence, he is a lich. Poxus is, and his faction again is magic users. So you've got a variety of stuff where you see demons in Erethirs, the Legion of Erethyr. You also see demons as kind of the leaders of the Circle of Poxus at the moment. But you also see stuff like the Shadow Elves are part of the Circle of Poxus. They're a sub race of elves. Again, a lot of this stuff is magic based, and like the darker side of magic. I believe Thrace Wraith Hailer is a new one from the wave, the Poxus wave that John was just talking about. Mm-hmm. She can summon. I think she's listed as a summoner. So like you get the demons come from like I forget what they called the plane, but they come from a different place. So like Poxus, the Circle of Poxus seems like a thing that when Helios was doing his dark stuff to unleash the 4 dark beasts, or the dark 4, that the Poxus wave is kind of like the wild card of like, he's not really controlling that. And more stuff came out of that than he intended.
Love it.
I actually really like that idea that he went into this thing with this objective and this goal, didn't really fully understand what he was getting himself into. And because of that, there were other things that happened. I really like the idea that it was like there was some flaws to this plan because he thought he knew what he was doing, but really didn't have a clue. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Because like the demons are from like another plane of existence, so like they're
right.
He didn't create them, and his whole reason for doing all this, to creating the Dark 4 and doing this, was so basically it would kill off all the stuff that he and Celine made, so he could have her attention again. And I believe Jeremy talked in his thing, or maybe somewhere I read that they were kind of. He kind of regrets, to an extent. He still wants her attention, but he kind of regrets some of the stuff he's done here.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, and as we're talking, it's like, just trying to imagine what it's like to be an audience member right now. It's a lot, right? There's a ton of characters. There's sort of a lot going on, but for me, what this reminds me of is, some of the best pieces of fiction that I love. I'm thinking about the Marvel universe as a whole. Like as a kid, for whatever reason, when my dad brought home comic books for us to sort of like consider collecting, in addition to some of the sort of story-based comics, there was the this was the first run of what was called then the Marvel Universe, and it was like A through K. I think there was like a couple issues out already.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And these were comics that were literally just volumes, like encyclopedic volumes. There's a
Encyclopedia, yeah.
character and just
Mhm.
text for days breaking down who these things are. And
Yeah.
so I basically in my comic book collecting life, I lived basically in the X world, right? You know, I'm Gene Trash, I'm Muty, and that was my collection. I was an X-Men person, but having sort of been exposed to that, I had a sense of like what else was out there.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yes.
to Oz's point in terms of like, oh, I love that. There's this little bit of a regret and some chaos happening now. And when I look at the breakdown, the way this is sort of structured based on some of the info that was available on the Four Horsemen site, as you pointed out, there's this kind of balance, right? We start with Odysseus, then we go to Erethyr, then we go to Aetheron, then we go to like there's this pairing of sort of maybe what we call good, evil, and then there's some of the D&D language of kind of like, you know, some chaos, maybe not quite chaotic neutral, but it's
Sure.
broad, I guess is what I'm saying. So when I think about Marvel, it's the same kind of thing. At one point, yeah, the Avengers, we're following them. They're fantastic. At other points, you're like, they suck. Did you see what they did to the mutants? And to
yes,
me,
I see you can get your swords for hire there, and they can go either one or two ways, really, for the bad side
and
or
I
the good
think
side.
at the end of the day, it creates the space for some really great storytelling, and I just wanted to name that. And then at the end of the day, there's also like I don't know, I'm thinking about the collecting and looking at these figures and like, oh, I wish I was here for that figure. But at the end of the day, I'll only have a couple, but they're still sort of in this world, and I love that, you know, we have the
Yes.
opportunity to get pulled into this larger story, and we may not exactly know every little thing, and we may not have every little character, but it's this, there's just something about this world and how they've approached building it that I think is incredibly smart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're leaving it very open so that they can go in different directions with it. And I love that. You know, it leaves a very big open narrative, which leaves avenues for all kinds of creation. And right now, there's no sign of it slowing down. You know,
Oh yeah.
Sean, you
Well,
mentioned it.
no, it
Jesse, you
started
mentioned
back in 2015
it's
there, so it's kept going.
building and getting bigger
Yeah.
and bigger every time. So that's
Yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah, pretty much anytime they talk about the new stuff, and especially with the Necronominus wave, there were people, oh, well, is this the end of the line now? And every time the horsemen are like, yeah, no, don't even worry about it. We're not ending this anytime soon. So, and this right here is proof. Like, they have so much stuff within each of these factions that they can keep building off of, that this could go on for decades if they wanted to.
And of course, with people making their own customs and mix and matches, they might think of their own stories up, like I showed that little custom sculpt that I was doing there of my half breed, Sigorum, I've called him, which in the tongue of his captures, as his captors rather, means the shunned one.
So
they found him out in the middle of nowhere in the wastelands there.
The beauty of what they're doing, and this is definitely about going into the third party, like the different artists that are out there creating the custom heads and custom bodies and all that. It's like they welcome the fact that some of these third party vendors are building their own mythology within Mythic Legions for that reason. Like Wolf King Customs has a God's Fire series, and they create custom heads, custom weapons specifically for that story that they're doing, but it's like within the realm of Mythos for that reason. And so like they've never ever told anybody they're not allowed to do that. The horsemen don't look at this as, this is our IP, you play in our sandbox or we're going home. It's no, they welcome that about this line, and that's one of the most refreshing things about enjoying Mythic Legions is here's a toy company that actually is like, what do you got? Come up with something, and then when you show what you came up with, sometimes they'll look at it and go, we might use that. that's kind of cool. Like they didn't even think of it that way or whatever. And there are people out there that like Jesse and I met the guy that he came up with the Chronaw idea and presented it to Eric, and Eric's like, sweet, and then they took that idea and made their version of it then as the Trapjaw tribute figure, homage figure.
Very cool.
Well, yes, when I first posted about my Sigorum sculpt there, I did mention if they would like me to send it to them and they can study it and have a look, and if they like the idea, but I don't think anybody got back to me. But no, I'd like to contribute in some way to the group there. So if they like the idea of that sort of cross mix of races or what have you, or even the way that the head sculpt looked, I don't know. I like the idea of putting ideas out there and seeing who uses them and what have you.
Well, we'll
Absolutely.
certainly see quite a bit of that, because just being in the Cabal and seeing everything that's going on, there is no shortage of creativity anywhere within that group, and I love it.
Yes.
So
We
I
all have
wanted to
different
address.
style. We all have different styles of playing in the playground, as it were.
Yeah. Wanted to address, figuratively speaking's question here.
Yes.
Do they have a werewolf figure set?
Oh.
They do not have a figure or parts to make an official werewolf yet. They have all but said, I believe Eric Treadaway, who's the mastermind, like Sean said, behind, like these are all, a lot of this comes from his imagination, and they flush it out together. But he said, I'm pretty sure I remember him saying somewhere on an interview or a conversation where he has acknowledged that werewolves do exist in this world. There's a lot of things people always ask for that they haven't done yet, and it's like they're just waiting for the right time, the right way to release them into the story. Or into
Of
the
course,
waves.
you have direwolves there in some fantasy genres, specifically the Game of Thrones series there. So along with the horses, we I don't know, we might see a few other different species of animals come out.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the horses and the moose, so I'm sure we'll see other.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll see other mounts and those sorts of things down the road when they get to it.
All right. Let's talk about bears.
Well,
Sean, I'll let you do this one because this is your favorite.
Oh, sorry. Were there other questions?
There was a little bit here, because Thanos Copter's really getting into the lore right here, and he had a question. Does Celine know what Helios did?
I'm not 100% on that.
She's a woman, of course she does.
Yeah. Well,
yes, they know all and they see all.
They know all, they see all, and they're not going to let you know all of what they know. That's how it works.
And they sure know what's up.
Yeah.
As you say.
I don't know that we know. I haven't
I
heard.
don't. At least in the information we currently have, I'm sure that will be addressed in the book that's coming out at some point. I know they're working on it. I imagine that will be addressed. I'm not entirely sure. Nothing I know or have read specifically says how she has responded to that. I'm assuming she had a hand in sending the great beasts to help, but I don't know that 100%.
I'm sure when the books come out of the game, it might structure things and order things and what have you to get a better idea of what's going on there, I suppose. So I think just now we have little bits to read up on to get an idea of what's happening there.
I think so, yeah. I think that's something we'll probably see more of in the lore, with books. I mean, that's the fun part about writing fiction books, is you can kind of get those inner thoughts that aren't always expressed when telling a story from third person perspective.
I mean, if you take old Tolkien there, for example, he spent many decades fleshing out the world of Lord of the Rings there, and what all the characters did and where they came from, and where the different locations are and how they came about and what have you. So he spent a rather long time fleshing all that out, I believe you say, to bring that whole world in together, to make it a final piece to get your head around, I suppose.
Yep. So Damon, earlier tonight, he posted this on IG. I definitely shared it to my story. Hopefully, people will follow. But in anticipation and excitement for tonight's episode, he did his
Oh
first pop
yes.
and swaps tonight
Awesome.
for some fun
Very cool.
photographs. Guys, definitely check him out on IG. It's Photog Damon, and he posts some wonderful photography on there.
Oh yes.
Excellent.
Very good.
I'm pretty sure I started following him, but I will definitely make sure I look for those after the show.
Absolutely.
Well, I suppose
talk
as long
bears.
as you heat up your parts there, Damien, you should be fine. I know a few people have had breakages there because the joints are a bit stiff when you take them out of the package. But yes, moving along there.
Yeah, let's get into. I'm sorry, I'm excited for this myself because
We all are there also.
we're getting barbarians here, which is definitely my wheelhouse, and specifically since they go by the bear, and that's one of my nicknames.
You got a
I'm
figure
all
from
about.
Sean there, didn't you, the other day?
Oh
From the
yes,
old
I did. He's
noble
still
bear.
sitting here proudly
Yes.
on my desk. The Ostradamus figure. Love it. Thank you again, Sean. By the way, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
See, that's the good thing about the community too. It's full of giving and diving into this big adventure altogether. Yes.
Sean, do you want to lead up the Noble Bear since it's your favorite faction there?
Yeah, I love these guys. It's pretty much Mythic Legions meets He-Man meets Conan meets these guys the Noble Bear. Their leader Atlas, who I showed off a little earlier. He's banished. He was supposed to take over the army of Laodiceus, and instead he leaves, and his brother Attila takes over Laodiceus. So Atlas goes off, and he forms the Noble Bear, and he just brings on these ragtag barbarians from across the lands, and they are now this like splinter faction of sorts. I love that. Everything about this I love, because I love that they're the ragtag group, because I love ragtag group stories. And then on top of that, they are the legit barbarian tribe, for lack of a better term, in Mythos. And that's where you're going to get a lot of it. Like Adamon, who's the He-Man tribute, he's in there. And you have Brontis, the Cyclops troll, who's in there. And you also have ex-gladiators. So like Adamon, Calavius, they're ex-gladiators that join in. And
Kador there, was he?
Yeah, Kador. And I love that, because their mythology isn't too crazy, number one, but number two, they brought me the Barbarian Legion Builder, and that just made me the happiest person, because that accessory pack is one of the, like, I never opened a toy in my life and wished I had 5 more of the same toy so that I could try out every option possible in that accessory set. So
yes, they seem to have a good number of figures in that wave there.
Yeah, they do. Even the Dorino Honoris, the She-Ra tribute is in there.
Yes.
There, Romulus, my boy Rhaegor, who's my absolute favorite, and I actually I got a Torgon red thing coming to me from eBay, so he'll be next when we hold class next time. He'll be one of my
yes. I pre-ordered the Romulus figure myself.
Yeah, and he was one that when they had him in All Stars, I was just like so hell bent that I had to get this figure finally, because out of that faction, Torgon and him were the two where I was like, I really want these on my shelves. Like some of the other ones I could give or take, but for the fact that you're getting them for like $40 compared to $250 on eBay, yeah, absolutely. Needed a Romulus. So,
and a fun little side note. It's yet to be seen if we'll see more of it or not, but Rhaegor is part of the Dragon Clan.
Yes.
So it's
Yes,
like
I'd
another.
like to get a few dwarves if I could at some stage. I'm not into the dwarves here.
And the dwarves factor into almost every faction. Like there's
Oh yes, I've seen that. They've got their toes
you know,
in there, as it were.
Yep.
But yeah, Jesse's right. The Rhaegor is the only character that has a shield with a symbol that's different than everyone else's, because everyone else has, you know, like the Arethyr or Leodicius or whatever. But he's got this dragon sigil on his, and they haven't even gone into that. So that's potentially like an extra faction that could be revealed down the line, which everybody keeps wanting a dragon. That's like the big joke. There's actually a T-shirt they made, "Where's the dragon?" And that was said a lot when we were at Legions Con and stuff, and at G-Con.
I see. Is it McFarlane? Is it? They brought out a few dragons.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're statues.
They put out some of those,
figures.
but when people want them, people want the Four Horsemen version though. People want the
Mythic something nice and big, I think.
So I'm very curious if they release a dragon, if they're going to also go. And by the way, here's the faction that Rhaegor is a part of, and then I'm going to lose my ever-loving mind because I've been wanting to know who else is in this faction. And the cool thing about that to me is if he's the only one, that makes it even more special, and that makes it like a whole, like, holy crap, he's like the special ops guy in Mythos, where it's like he's got his own thing. He goes in, he gets stuff done, he comes out, and he's the only person walking away from this. Which that's kind of how I viewed him for the longest time. But if he has a whole nother faction that he's bringing along for the party, I cannot wait to see what they do with that.
Very cool.
And last but not least, at least for now, Sons of the Red Star.
Yeah.
This is the is kind of the counterpoint to the Noble Bear. They are the assassins, mercenaries, spies. They are the crafted. This is essentially the rogue faction. And I don't mean X-Men rogue. I mean D&D class rogue thief kind of thing. Led by the figure Sean showed earlier, Scapular, the Crypt Breaker. He is a skeleton that was originally part of Necronominus, and just he wanted to live a life of like luxury and wealth and pillaging and doing his own thing and not falling in line with the congregation. So that's where you've got Sir Gerard, Lord Viteris, the Dark Templars. So it's
you have Mythoss, the I think he's the next Motu tribute figure there on Stinkor.
Mythosaur's in there, and Keltis, who's the Skeletor tribute as well.
Yes.
So, and I love the concept of, there's really, if you look at that group, and we don't know what's underneath the helmet of Grisha, the Slitherer. So take that one off it could be a guy or a girl even. So let's take them off the table. But pretty much the only one that is like he's a legit human character is Lord Viteris. And it's like everybody else is a skeleton, or in Mephitor's case, like a fuzzmonk skunk kind of character. But it's like, all these skeletons.
A bit of a goblin, is he?
Yeah,
he's technically a swale goblin.
There, Jesse does this stuff better, and that's why I let him take the lead all the time. Anyway. But I just love how it's skeletons who are just like, we just want money. We just want, we want to have the best in life, because it's the whole, our afterlife is better than our real life, so we're going to live it up. It's like, that's mind-boggling to me, but that makes it quirky.
And they bring it down to the skin and bones, shall we say?
Basically, and it brings some fun to it, just for the fact that the skeletons are in it for the money. I'm like, that's crazy. I love it.
It's just straight callback to the Jolly Roger, and it's a pirate's life for me.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
It's never good to have a bare wallet or a gold purse, as we say.
Well, it's that, and every time I think of them as well, it's like, Obi-Wan, the wretched hive of scum and villainy. That's basically them right there. And on top of that, if I ever got a tattoo, which I'm probably never going to worry about, that would be the logo that I'd want the most, just because it's so freaking cool. I don't know why. I just absolutely love that logo. It's like that and the Noble Bear are the two I love the most. But Red Star is like such a freaking cool, iconic looking logo. So once again, kudos to Nate Barch.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
And as of now, that is a list of all the factions that we know of.
Well, that's
Cool.
incredible. Absolutely incredible. Plenty of different places where you can jump in at. I mean, I'm down for a whole bunch of undead pirates. And, you know, of course, again, barbarians, all about them. Absolutely all about barbarians.
There's
And then a bit of a
definitely
play set to
speculation.
put them on, a bit of a sailing ship there. But I'm
There's
sure
been
many crafty fellas can make their own ships and what have you.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of speculation that next year's wave release at G-Con will be a Sons of the Red Star versus Noble Bear. Nothing official has been revealed about that, but that's what a lot of people are guessing because they've done the Four Horsemen, and there was like heroes to go with it. So yeah, I could imagine them do that, and then after that, start going down the Great Beasts.
And I will atomize probably if they do that, because I've been so excited for Noble Bear and Red Star that it's like, yeah, bring it on. And I will probably just be the one doing the Wilhelm scream through the whole thing, knowing how much my wallet is completely screwed. Every single one, it'll be the happiest Wilhelm scream you'll ever hear, but it'll just be the I'm never gonna financially recover from this, because that will be the wave I have to do an all in on finally. So,
you know, we got Damon here saying that this is really cool and fun, fellas, and a big thank you to everybody, of course, here, guys. I mean, this is what it's all about. You know, we decided a couple weeks ago we were going to just start doing this every month. And, you know, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it and along for the ride, because I am loving every second of this. I love getting into the lore and the world, and I'm having a blast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On that note, do you mind if we Oz, could we get maybe the shot with the layout with the us on the side or whatever, just to break it up a little bit before we.
Yeah, of course. Instead of looking at the blackboard.
Too many screens.
I'll stop.
I'm getting flashbacks to distance learning. Again, I'm a teacher, so this was not my favorite time in my teaching career.
Yes, I know about
it's nice
the old
to humanize
there,
things a little.
Yeah,
I've been all the way out here in Eternia and what have you.
Yeah. So I just, to pause there for a moment and think about the factions and the world. Again, I'm a big nerd when it comes to my fiction and my fantasy. And I was such a nerd that in college I took a class all about fantasy. And there was something about fantasy and science fiction that really allows us to kind of learn a lot about ourselves by putting us in a world that is completely different from ours, right? Yep. And I think the Horsemen have absolutely done that. But the best fantasy does so in a way where there are still these sort of touchstones that we can relate to and connect with. And it's still it's fantastic, yet there's a realism that we can connect with, right? It doesn't feel so out there that we can't even figure it out. And so, I'm reminded of like Star Wars with like, oh yeah, there's a little bit of the Western in there. There's a little bit of, bounty hunters are a thing. And, there's these.
Sort of the older Eastern legends, I think he had in there as well.
Yeah. And so
the Kurosawa type films.
Kurosawa, absolutely. And what I'm appreciating about this is, again, we kind of named it in terms of like, the role of sort of these religious factions and there's a little bit, of course, this otherworldly like God reality, and then there's these beings that were created by these gods that then manifests on Earth, and there's wars and battle, etc., factions. So that's cool. But then you get into the sheer sort of like, I guess, diversity of everything, in that like we said, it's not here's good, here's evil, although we get a sense of that playing out. And I'm with you. I love the Noble Bear. I love that notion of the folks who kind of play in this grayer space, and that exists. I love that even as we learn a little bit more about, some of the clearly the good side or whatever. Even that I'm not like, oh, they seem a little like cult-like and a little bit, so again, I find pieces that help me think about our world too. And I really appreciate that richness. It just makes it all that more, I don't know, fun for us to play in, right? Like we can see ourselves like, and which I then go to the races and sort of like, as we were preparing this and thinking about this, really, it's this like, well, who are the beings that exist on this planet? And if I can kind of segue into that, I just, putting this list together, as you'll see, there's a lot of them. And I will tell you right now up front, this is not even complete. As you're kind of going through the website and learning about all the different races, there are more and more that get added as people are doing that. So for example, this one that's listed here, the Arakigas are, didn't exist until the wave. It was the All Stars wave, right? Right before
All Stars 5+.
Yep. And so again, that didn't exist, and then it did. We've got the demons, we've got dwarves, and again, pulling from things that we might be familiar with, whether it's the notion of demons in sort of our existing mythology or religions or what people have, and then the idea of dwarves, right, which are commonplace in fantasy. Elves, again, like most people are like, yeah, elves. Ghouls, goblins. Again, ghouls is one of those that we didn't know the name of until Necronominus, right? Humans, boring. No, humans. Jaguarians, right? From Jaguar, I assume. I love it. Jaguarians, if you're going to explain that. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Pronounce it in Spanish.
It sounds like such a cooler way to pronounce that. I think that just needs to be official from here on out.
The Minotaurs, the orcs. Again, I'm putting this together. I'm like, oh, ogres aren't there. Like there are a lot of things that were not there, and they'll get updated. Skeletons, trolls,
centaurs too.
Yeah, exactly. The centaurs aren't there. The satyrs aren't there. What are the dragons again? The
Dragosaur.
Dude, the Dragosaur. There's a bunch that aren't here.
That's the one.
The Umengeists. I love that. That's like a little bit of the German, like Umengeists, human ghosts, vampires.
Big fan of that last part there.
And then whenever we get back to vampires, there's this notion of crossbreeding because the vampires in particular like to do a little bit of that. And then there's this thing that was on their website talking about sort of the more mysterious, and I think they use the word exotic on some of them, but there are these ones that are a little bit of a question mark in the moment. So again, this is not a fully complete list, but to go back to my comments about the world and how rich it is, just this notion of like how many different beings are at play. And then as you'll see, when we start to delve into these, even say among the elves, there are sub races, and among the humans, there are different roles, right? And so I don't know. I'm always sort of in awe of any world building venture, whether it was Tolkien or Frank Herbert or, Kirby Lee and the whole Marvel pen. It's just like I'm blown away by that. And as you've already mentioned a couple different times, we've got the Four Horsemen doing their thing, but then you've also got the influence of the fans, working its way. So with that, we kind of talked about how we were going to go through this huge list, which again is not complete. And I think, obviously, this is a series. We're probably going to go into maybe one or two tonight, and then we have plenty to come back to and think about, even with the factions, right? So just want to set expectations, and I don't want anyone to log off right now and see this list and they're like, holy crap, I can't hang out for this. I can't rewatch. We're probably only going to talk about maybe one or two groups here, but then more for you to come back to next class.
It's the idea, folks. This is an ongoing class with an updated syllabus as time goes on. So things are going to change. We're not tackling this whole thing tonight. We're already 2 hours in, and we just made it through factions. I mean, I know we went on for a while with weekly picks or monthly in this case, almost to a degree, since we all haven't gotten together for a month to talk about this stuff again. But I mean, that's one of the things about this. We're going to keep this going for quite some time, and the idea that the horsemen are not even slowing down with this line uh, makes me excited for the future because I'm just
Yeah.
thinking now, like 2-3 years from now, we'll all still be getting together like once a month to keep going on about what new is coming out.
Definitely.
And this
So
isn't even scratching the world of Cosmeria and the Cosmic Legions, because that's a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah.
so there you go, guys. We're gonna have to like go ahead and start a whole different thing up for that. Um,
Well, that's why
but
it's
that's the
Legion's
great thing.
class.
Yeah.
It
That's
is
right. This is
Legion's
Legion's
class.
class.
You'll know which one you're in depending on the typography.
That's right. So we did have figuratively speaking chimed in with who is the guy that looks like Stratos? Now that homage figure.
I was just gonna.
So he is a race orphan, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a bit of a messenger there in his role, and he's with the Zylonia's flock faction.
Yep, his name is Xenothon.
That's it. That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Rick
and
got it in the chat.
it's funny. It's like again, some of the races that pop up. So this came out in the All-Star 5 plus. Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, this is one of those that is a tribute, so they tend to be a little bit more loose and kind of end up creating things, it seems like, with all the tribute figures. But he's an Orifim, and then I'm realizing, yeah, there's also angels, and I don't know. I really
Seraphim
appreciate
sounds a bit like that. They're
exactly,
angel,
yeah.
I believe.
And I just appreciate that. Again, coming back to our world, as you know, it's like if it wasn't apparent, as a person of color, I appreciate a line that is like, no, there's all sorts of creatures and people, and they get their time in the sun, and you can find yourself in them, and you can find these awesome creatures that you can like trip out on and be scared of or have fun with.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways,
Of course,
it's class, but
with
it's also kind of a love letter to this toy line.
With the
and
tributes,
creators.
they had to change things up, of course, otherwise they'd be getting the old slap on the hand from the town or whoever owns that property.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that helps to get that out there, I suppose.
Thanos Copter has brought in that he's over here waiting for a complete political and social breakdown, power dynamics, and how that relates to territories and other factions. That's for the AP class. We haven't got there yet. We're still building on the foundations of what goes into that.
But gotta walk before you can run.
That's right. It's real funny that you bring that up, though, because we have a group chat now that we're all in, and we've even jumped on together. I know Brick, Jesse, and I actually got together for like a meeting the other week where we were going over some ideas just for this upcoming class. And these are things that we have touched on. So yes, we will be getting to that in the future, Thanos Copter. So stay tuned. We got a lot of ground to cover here.
Things like swearing fealty and what have you. A subject for another time, yes.
God, it's a gorgeous figure.
Yeah, just as we're talking, I'm just gonna keep just popping things for visuals.
So I'll say this: I compiled a list and made a spreadsheet because I was doing on in the Cabal. I do a thing called Mythic Minute on Thursday nights, and I wanted to have some fun, and I called it Roll and Tell, where I basically like listed out all the different races, all the different classes or roles, and we basically did like a D&D role for a character live on the Cabal the other day. So there are at least 50 different named races, and I believe over 70 roles of classes, essentially.
Love it.
So these are photography from other people, are they?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was just showing images, but yeah, Jesse, I didn't mean to interrupt you with it. Love it.
No, it's okay.
I appreciate your geek, man. And that's and for those of you like earlier, you guys were saying, "Oh, you're putting some work into this," because what you're looking at and putting this thing is kind of my version of that. It's the like, oh, this is my way to look at everything and translate it in a way that my brain will make sense. And anyways, tell us more about said spreadsheet.
I was gonna say, yeah. I'm sorry, Jesse. I was just gonna say, like, I love the fact that you have that because, like, Brick's got the slideshow with the pictures. You've got the spreadsheet with the knowledge to go through everything. And I'm just in love with all this because the nerd in me, that geek in me, is all like, yes.
Yeah. Of course, my knowledge is based elsewhere, as you mostly know. But yes, it's been good so far.
Yeah. So yeah, 50 different named races. Now that is including like the eagle for Etheron, the elder frost deer for Xylona. So it is including those, even though their roles might be listed as god.
Oh, hey there, Scalavida, sir.
I'm trying to think. I'd have to pull it up. I can't remember if they give a race. Some of them don't have races named, like Sean said. Grisha, the Slitherer in Sons of the Red Star. We don't know gender. We don't know what race. It could be Slitherer. There could be a snake person under there, or a lizard folk type thing, or maybe it's just a human who's Slitherer because they are always getting out of tight spots, or who knows. But yeah, like demon, lesser demon, skeleton, poison skeleton. There's the Fury Clan, which initially, was just the Fury Clan orcs, but now they've expanded it to anybody can be a Fury Clan. So in my mind, that's kind of almost like the Red Lanterns. Like anybody can get inducted into that, and it just turns them red.
Nice.
You've got trolls. So I said earlier, trolls, ogres, orcs, goblins. I feel like there's another one, like in all their subclasses. Are all a thing from the Unpure. So they're kind of like twisted, almost like perverted versions of like the original creation that Helios and Selene made together.
Ogres there?
Yes, ogres are considered the actual, like the green orc looking ogres are considered part. Right. So basically all the green ones are the impure is where that term comes from. They're like a sub or a class species all their own there. So and like stuff like the tuberculous is its own. So like in skeleton you have multiple different types of skeletons. You've got the regular skeletons, which is listed as a race, but then you have the tuberculous, which are these like weird abomination creatures that Belualith controls and is commander of. So yeah, there's so much diversity and imagination into all of this, and it's all like you were saying, Brick. It touches on stuff we can identify with or are familiar with in our own world, but in that fantastical way.
Mm-hmm. So, which did you want to delve into today of these races of Mythos?
Well, why don't you guys?
Let's ask the chat.
Oh yeah, the chat.
Let's ask the chat the questions to them as well.
There.
Guys, where do you want to start this journey? Let us know down in the chat.
Here's the list. But I gotta get that spreadsheet. I gotta correct this list, man.
I didn't even think about sending that to you when I made, because I'm like, I'm just doing this for my role thing. Like I never think anything I'm doing is things other people want.
Oh yeah.
So I'll send that to you.
Yeah, you had mentioned setting up like a Dropbox for us, and I think that is going to be a good
idea. So Damien reckons demons there. What do you think?
Well, I mean,
place to start as any, I suppose.
I think he's a little biased, but
I mean,
Damon
I'm not saying we won't do demons, but come on, folks. Whoever else is out there, Skelevator, you say you love listening to me bring the knowledge, yeah, but I can't talk sometimes. So, what else? Dwarves, goblins, orcs, elves.
That's right. We got tons of races up here, guys.
What was it, Brick? How did you say?
Yeah, Brick.
Hawaiian. So actually, if we were doing straight up Spanish, it'd be Hawaiians, which is tricky because the double L is a
okay.
Is a Y.
I like that.
Let's do Filipino. It'd be Hawaiians.
I rather like how some can do that sort of sounding different to the names and what have you. Like Arrakis in June, some say Arrakis or something. They use a
Right.
different sort of feeling to the name.
Yeah, I dig their naming too. On that note, like I can tell they're sort of
Oh,
like, and I've heard them
the
talk
audio's
about
gone.
naming different characters. They're kind of like thinking, it's all over the place. Sometimes it's like, oh, someone's name or whatever, but
All
a
right.
lot of cool thought goes into it.
Thanos Copter has jumped in and says, I think humans is a good starting point. So I say,
Okay.
Homo sapien.
Well, we got SJ jumping in saying he'd like to hear some Zelda Ocarina talk if you like. Well, not quite the class for that tonight, but I'm sure we get into it ourselves a little bit. When it comes to mythic legions and these figures, they do have elves, which is very similar to the
Oh, yes,
Kokiri.
true.
But
What about the elves there?
So, okay, and Mark R has jumped in to state humans. So we got two humans, and then Damon wants demons. So why don't we take it from there, guys? Let's start off with something I guess we're all a little bit more familiar with as being a part of,
I thought
what
we were going to break into a sing along there for a
Little
second.
dinner theater tonight, yeah.
As the Ocarina of Time,
Yeah, I heard it. I heard it. Playing it up for SJ on there because we all appreciate some good Ocarina. And SJ, of course, saying he's new here. He's actually
Oh,
he
hello.
comes from Duchess of Darkness's Wicked Wednesdays. He's always down for some good horror. So,
Okay.
thank you for coming along and joining us on this journey.
I don't think anything brings more horror than humans, so I guess that's a great place to start, right?
Horrors and demons.
Agreed.
Yeah, humans and demons. Horrific all over. I'm down.
So glad I'm not one of them. I mean,
All right.
Fuzzmonk for life.
Humans. There
So
you
just
go.
so you know, the way it's sort of organized, it's just a couple of shots of different groupings, I guess. They're kind of roles is the term that they're using, right? So, but yeah. So these are some newer figures, some older figures, I guess, is what we're looking at here. Actually, yeah, based on what you're familiar with, you want to like kind of maybe talk about some of these and give us a sense of like when these things were coming out, just from the sort of toy perspective. Like that first one is Cassia, right?
Cassia, yeah, she came, I believe, in the Wasteland wave. Sean, does that sound right?
I'll look it up. I think you're right, though.
So she's a barbarian. She's part of the House of Noble Bear. You can usually tell House of Noble Bear because they have the least amount of clothes on, guys or girls.
Yeah, she's from the Wasteland wave.
So she's, she's got a couple different heads, different attachments like the barbarians, but she's one of the few females in Noble Bear that's like got actual name and character. I mean, they all have characters unless they're just the generic builders. Usually don't have bios. So she's a couple years old.
Uh-oh. Oh no. Middle of class and we had an accident. Jesse dropped out. Hold on.
Oh no.
Call the janitor.
He's back.
He's back.
We got him.
There you go.
I have this great skill of knocking my microphone over and plopping it on my keyboard, and it twice now it's kicked me out of the thing tonight. So thanks for bearing. I'm talking hands, which no one can really see.
It's okay. I'm the same way. I do it all the time, and as you can tell, most of the time my hands are below my camera level. So you're good to go. You're not the only one who's doing this.
I tend to keep my hands away from the keyboard there when I'm doing going on all these fast sales, because they say to keep the windows open or what have you. Yes. And if you press something else, you're out of the sale there.
Well, and if I put my hands up by my face, I'm like blocking the microphone, and I can't put my hands. I got to move my hands. So yeah, humans. You've got a vast diversity within the humans, like we do in our own world. I mean, you've got the Elijah over there on the far right. He was just announced last month at G-Con. He is an emissary, I believe was his role, messenger for the Order of Aetheron. He's specifically one of the Templars. So the Templars are like that subset within the Order of Aetheron, and the Order of Aetheron up until more recent times, as far as the story goes, had been almost exclusively human. But yeah, so and he's I like his story. He's pretty cool. He's
Yes, he seems to be raised on a farm there.
Yep. And he's been well trained because he has to deliver messages because most of the Templars stay and protect the temple. So he's one of the ones that like goes out. Not that the ones who defend the temple aren't trained, but he's got to be able to handle himself. I'm imagining usually on his own.
Yes, being on the road there with all the dangers out and about and what have you.
Sure. Yeah. And then you've got Dubon in the middle there. He is a human ranger as part of Zylona's flock. I don't remember where he hails from. I can't. But the main part of the land is split kind of down the middle, north and south. So you kind of have the 4 quadrants where the heroic factions live, or the Legions of Light, as they're also called. But then you've got like Samir Scrollwarder from the Paxos wave, who's like skin tone and appearance feels very kind of like Middle Eastern Arabic looking, kind of that vibe. So it's just really interesting, and they have these characters all mixed out through all the different races and factions. So humans, like in our world, they can be good, they can be bad. We don't know what Gorgo Aetherblade is, the leader of the Legion of Erethyr. We don't know if he's a he. He's usually referred to, I think, as a he, but we don't know what his race is. And an odd thing about him, he's been around since that first age with the initial fight between the Dark Four and the Great Beasts.
Oh.
So if he is a human, he's got something going on that he's been around for a long time.
Yes, I'll say so. He's fairly old like myself there.
He's got some mojo.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Sean, go run with your barbarians, man.
That's my favorite figure right there. That's it. Right. Like that is the figure that if anybody was getting into the line and if I had spare ones, I would just give them that and go, now go sit down for an hour and tell me what you come up with, because that figure in and of itself has so much customizability. And then to add to that, all of the new stuff that you can pop and swap to make other things using the new stuff on top of that. It's like, but this was the figure that when I got into the line, I got Rhaegor, and that was my gateway drug character. But then when I saw this on the Horseman's Source Horseman page, I was like, what is that? Because I love that the overall look makes me say Frank Frazetta. There's no way around that. And I've probably had 10 of those in my collection at random points, and I still don't get sick of picking that one up. And the best part is, I will say, we're good at plugging this stuff tonight too. I will say that. If you get to a convention where the Horsemen are selling this, you can get it for $60. And for the amount of stuff that you can do with this thing, it's worth every penny of it you're going to get, that you're going to spend, I should say. So,
absolutely. And I'll continue plugging for them. I know some of you were saying you can't wait for them to get out to the West Coast. They haven't announced anything officially, but I know there are talks about trying to get the street teams they established in August, where they had representatives at some shows. So I know they're trying to get some stuff. Their whole pitch is it's hard for them to take that much product and that much of their staff to basically shut down the studio for 4 or 5 days, transport them across the country, and have enough product, because they did PowerCon this year in Ohio, and they had a camper, like a massive camper, packed floor to ceiling, front to back, behind the chairs, the seats in the front of the van, and they were running like they sold out of product every day, faster and faster, because that's all they could have with them. So, but I know specifically West Coast folks, they have said they're going to try to get something out there. There's nothing official yet. They're going to be at Muscacon in Michigan, I think in March, or a portion of team. So they're trying. They hear you. Yeah. And the cool thing about the bios, Carol's mentioning these, a lot of the bios reference other characters. So I got Brother Malleus last year.
Oh.
I just got Malleus at, I think, the Saturday part of ToyCon New Jersey, the day before Legion's Con. And I was like, oh, he's pretty cool. And then I'm reading it, and it talks about Brother Mandibulus and Morgulith, or maybe it just talked about Brother Mandibulus. And I was like, oh, cool. So I found him the next day.
Furious does much of the same thing there. He mentions a horse that he trained that he gave to a fellow that then gifted it to Artemis Silvercord. There is a bit of a fealty symbol there.
Yep, that's Aldra the Moose that he trained for her. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so it's just cool the way they tie in. It's cross-selling, but it also ties the characters together.
Of course.
You know, like I think, is it Pixis is a skeleton, but I'm trying to remember, doesn't he have a connection to one of the characters in Noble Bear, Sean?
That I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest, because Pixis is not a character that I've really delved into.
Okay.
But just real quick, since it's big on the screen, that deluxe or not the deluxe Legion build, but the Legion builder, the barbarian one, that's all this is. Pop and swap with that builder and the Furious 4 Lord Bashadi the Alpha, which I cannot stand saying that. I'm sorry, it's too much. It's too much, and I know the man on top of that, and I'm just like, really? I have to say all of this every time I address your figure. But
did you do the soft goods there,
no,
sir?
That came with it. That
was
came
it
with the Furious 4-pack figure.
Oh,
and right there, boom, you have a barbarian turned Spartan Mercurian now, and that's all that it is, you know. And he's one of my favorite figures on my shelf right now because I didn't expect to be able to do this. And then once I got home, I just started messing around, like, this is cool. It made me think of 300. I'm like, well, that's the last film I ever saw that Zack Snyder did that I liked, so I'll just represent it this way. So, not to start that, but I'm just saying, like, this is another example of, you get, like, Oz has the one that I sent him, and he's already experimenting with the horns on it, and once you get some other figures, you can start going crazy, and, like, you'll come up with this kind of stuff eventually.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I looked at it the other night, and a lot of what's on my shelf behind me, at least in this and the bottom row, are mostly pop and swaps I did. They're not named characters, but I love them just as much as I love
what is it, the ogre scale accessory pack. You get a couple of new horns in that one.
But yeah, you pop that ogre half giant accessory pack on a shadow Equidron, or even the regular Equidron body, or one of the green skinned ogres, and it immediately changes it, because, you know, it adds that beard.
He's done one there, have you?
But yeah, you put that on the shadow Equidron, and then you've got like a shadow half giant.
Yeah,
because the shadow.
I pre-ordered that ogre set.
Or
also.
The other one that I've seen on the Cabal that I really want to do is the Decibelus figure, the vampire ogre. If you pop the head off of that one, you could put that the head that I just showed you, the Viking looking head, and it looks like the Conan Frost Giants kind of deal. It's like you could do all, and that's the thing about the line, that it's like it was more the visuals that grabbed me at first, which worked because Azar and Zazar were the two where I'm like, who are they? That's freaking awesome. Like, who are these demon looking guys? Because their faces looked almost like a Jack Kirby character. Like, if you look at those, there is a Kirby-esqueness to those designs. But then I was like, I want them on either side of Skeletor, of my classic Skeletor. Those look cool. And then I started looking at more of the characters, and the next thing I knew, I'm just jumping down the rabbit hole. And what's cool is you can use the stuff that they have out now, and you can cobble together characters you've always wanted when you were a kid, but never had the ability to do anything about. So like these Frost Giants, like the Frost Giant possibility with the ogre scale figure. It's like, that's freaking great. You could actually like recreate some Frazetta paintings and have a barbarian fighting them in the snow or whatever. And it's like, you know, what Frank Frazetta could come up with was paintbrush, you can now do using toy photography and Mythic Legions figures.
And that's
I see someone doing a Mythic Legion's versions of the what's it the Avengers there.
Yeah.
As it
Oh
were.
yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy
Yep.
stuff.
Emil Wickman and
Amazing,
Eric Miller
though.
have both done Avengers figures.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're phenomenal. Those guys are just really cool people, really talented, and you can do so much of the pop and swap without having to pick up a paintbrush. Like Oz is playing with some of the different things. You can just
I
flip
just
things
took my
around.
headless horseman and
Yeah.
popped the new head on him from Father Christmas. Threw the extra sword that Sean had sent me. Now I got a whole new figure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you for that shout out, Jesse. I
very
appreciate
good.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people were
yes,
talking. We're talking a little bit about the Lego the wall, and again, I know I've said this comparison before, but this line, I think it was Damon earlier who was unsure about maybe popping these things off, and I was saying, when you work up the courage to start taking apart these figures, it's going to open up a whole other world, right? So here we are talking about the world and how the characters were intended by the creators of the line. But they also built in this notion that you could pop off arms, legs, and all of it. And as you've already mentioned, embraced people making third-party parts. And so there is really this like Lego-esque, they use the word system all the time, which I've always been like, these guys got to be playing with Lego. But there's this notion of like taking these awesome, great looking molded pieces of plastic that there's a lot of detail, which you don't necessarily get in Lego. Right. And then, but the ability to take them apart and build what you want, right, is just, it's epic. It's a great
So
line.
yes, see, I tried to make a bit of almost like one of those horns in the yoga accessory pack there last night to make a bit of a shoulder pauldron design for my figure. I'm yet to show at the end of this. So it didn't quite work out, of course, because when you're using the putty, it's rather soft. So you need to make a bit of an internal structure there to, I don't know, wire or toothpicks, which I had. But
an armature.
But yes, armature, I believe you say. And so anyway, when I was going over all that, some of the armature came dislodged out what hay, so I just ended up, chucking it out. There's no use.
I started laughing.
There's no use getting frustrated over it, I suppose.
Yes.
I started laughing, Eldor, while you were talking.
Please.
Sorry, I was laughing because I heard you say, and it took me a while to kind of piece together which accessory pack. I was like, wait, they made a yoga accessory pack?
Yoga? What?
And then it was like, ogre. Gotcha.
Yes,
For the second, I was
so those rather thick-looking
Namaste.
antlers that you get like on a moose, the moose type antlers.
The
So
yoga mat.
I was trying to make a bit of those.
The yoga set comes from the My Fit Legions line.
And then their enemies.
And it comes with a little protein shake or two.
So, Jesse, remember last night I told you with that one helmet you gave me? And I was like, I got to try it on. Here's my Ram Man.
Nice.
Oh, very good.
He works great so well.
Good there.
Are you using that same neck piece that is in the like the dwarf neck piece that they use like in the unnamed one to kind of get it sunken in there? Or
no, it's just that's the way it works because of that head and everything. It's just. But I was really curious. I didn't get a chance to get down here and play with it tonight until now. But yeah, I had this on originally. That one.
Is that what that little giggle of glee was?
Yeah, I wanted to try it, and I'm like, okay, you guys are talking. I'm gonna give this a shot. And I'm like, look at that. That was awesome. So
unlike most classes, unlike most classes, playing with your toys is encouraged here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in the teaching world, we call it project-based learning. So go do something.
It's part of the curriculum, I believe you say.
Yeah. Yep.
That's right.
Since we're showing off pop and swaps, here's one I put together today. This was originally going to be a Silverhorn Sentry with like the hooved feet, but I really wanted to use this helmet on like a knight figure. So it's going to get painted up and it'll look different, but this is the Dark Templar with that new one of the new heads.
Yeah, that kind of pointed style, like Crusader looking head.
Yep. Yeah.
Very cool.
I just wanted, yeah.
Very cool.
So we talked about humans.
Oh yeah, if you go back, there's a little bit more too. Because I want to. That was just that first one we got stuck because
I went off the
there's your
rails.
boy.
That's Atlas. Yeah, the leader.
And this is one of those
Juno.
I would love to get.
She's great.
No.
Her story, I think, highlights her interactions and her story because she originally started out, I think, as an orphan taken in by Atlas, raised and trained by Atlas, and then something happens and she goes off with, I think she was attacked and gets taken in by Gorgo, and in the Legion of Arethyr. So like, and I think it was Scapular and the Red Stars were coming. So like, she's like touching 3 major characters just in her little bio.
And again, just to acknowledge some of the watermarks, you can see I believe both of these shots are by Trevor Williams, 1/6 shooter. And, again, apologies. I didn't have necessarily the time to put in all the credits in there. I try to keep the watermark in there when possible, but just that's another whole piece of this thing is like showing off these figures in this with this amazing photography. So, but yeah, that character, I'd love to have that head in particular, but the whole deal. What about these gladiators? I don't know if that's exactly a role, but because there's
it is
kind of across the board.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Gladiator is a role. There was a thing called the Mercurian Arena, where people like that's Romulus. You had him in there. Vitus was there.
Adamon and Keltis were in it too.
Adamon and Keltis. The arena troll Brontus was in there. The orange one with the Cyclops eye that's getting ready to come back out.
Yeah,
Clavius. Yeah. So they there was kind of like a gladiator uprising, kind of like Spartacus, if I remember the story correctly. And at one point, like the legions of Arethyr were the ones running the arena. Because I believe the Black Knight builder figure is listed as the guards at the Mercurian Arena. So, full on gladiator is definitely. Oh, that's great! You gotta love that
and
head popping.
I also appreciated too, being a Masters fan, how they crafted the story of some of these tribute figures or the homage figures, because Adamon, they mention Adamon having like almost inhuman strength, and the only person that topped his kill list or his victories is Calavius. So like Calavius is like the guy in the arena, but Adamon's right there. He maybe he needs like 1 or 2 more fights, and then he'd probably tie or best it. But I like that, and then like Keltis, I thought it was cool that he fought in the arena and he used dark magic to fight people. So it's like, it's all sorts of crazy stuff. That's kind of why it's like, it's not just humans and that, not just this and that. It's like, what would that be like? I mean, just him doing what to these people that could be more horrific than an axe getting through somebody's skull, like that could be cool.
Well, yes, as you'll know, my character that I've sculpted here, he's a bit of a gladiator too. After he was found by the slave masters and then sold to his new masters at the arena there, and so of course he had begun growing wings out his back, but they cut those off to avoid him escaping, as it were. But then as he grew stronger and bigger, he developed dragon breath, and that's how he escaped. Basically, burning the place down. What?
Just again to go to, what's his name again?
Romulus.
So he was in the All Stars 5+. Is that right? Or some version of him? Okay.
Yep.
So then the Clavius, how long ago are we talking that this character came out?
He was, let me think here.
Was he part of the
Advent
what
of
did they call
Decay?
it?
Let me see. Yeah, Advent of Decay.
Okay.
Which that was the wave. Like Was that the one that has Krona in it too?
I
want to say it was.
No.
Oh, there's so many figures and characters in these waves. What?
Yeah, I want to say Krona was. Let's see. I just came across him.
He's in Eric.
Is he Wasteland? He's in Wasteland.
Wasteland. So I think that one was the one before Wasteland. So
yeah. So Wasteland came a couple waves after Advent of Decay, and Advent of Decay was the second Kickstarter. So that was like a huge. There was 43 figures in that wave. And then Coliseum was next that had 8 figures, and that one was like a sleeper wave. That's one of the ones that I believe a lot of the figures in that wave are some of the hardest ones to get. Now, granted, 2 of them are Keltis and Adamon, the He-Man and Skeletor homages, and Rhaegor. But yeah, other than the Black Knight, I don't know if the Coliseum Orc has been
No.
Well, see, that's the nice thing. You know what?
Knight there. It's a flesh wound.
If you look at all the bios, it tells you what waves they were released in. So yeah, I'm looking at the Coliseum Orc. He was released only in the Coliseum.
Yeah, because that one you could still find him going for almost $200 by himself, depending who's selling him.
And the only thing different about him is he comes, I think, is maybe the color of his armor, and he has the bare green orc chest. And that's the fun thing about especially these earlier waves. If you can buy the right parts, other than maybe the more specific face sculpts, you can almost remake most of the figures from the earlier waves.
I was going to touch on that earlier, how they asked if some of the older figures would come out in the All-Stars wave there, and I thought to myself, well, if you can find similar type pieces, you could possibly rig something together that looks similar, maybe.
Well, the only ones that I can think of that would be a hard one to do is like Adamon and Atlas, because that head is specific to those figures. But there was a point where the Keltis and Scapular head was extremely hard because of those figures, and then Sir Gerard comes along, and a production mistake comes along, and suddenly everybody has that head now. It's just painted a little differently, but you can repaint it to be Keltis or Scapular if you feel like.
I suppose if you're handy with it, you can sculpt something on there.
Sure.
And what have you.
Well, I gotta say, like, after you guys showed off Juno, I went to go look up her figure, because I've also got like a version 2 Masterverse Tila and all like that, but I'm just looking at her body, her head sculpt and everything, and it's like, as soon as she popped up on there in the pictures, I was just like, oh, Red Sonja. And
Yep.
Looking her up and everything like that, she's a pretty penny, but I mean, like, yeah, she could be worth it.
And yeah, her whole character name is Juno the Crusher. So like,
oh, that's perfect.
She's not just your frail.
Nope.
Yeah, like someone, I know this is a whole nother conversation for another time, but like all the female characters they've done in this line, they're all badass in whatever way, either between their fighting skills, their magic powers, their leadership. Like they all have really cool. I mean, all the characters have really cool stories, but like none of them at this point, and I don't see them ever doing it. Like there's no damsels in distress in this wave or this series.
Very cool.
They can all handle themselves.
Yes, they're usually more agile and quick there. Before you know it, they hit you back with a knife or two or a sword. What?
That's
you have to
Attila,
watch out.
And he's Atlas's brother, and he's the one that took over the role of the leader of the.
No. Does he come in a bit of a two set there? Does he? With another figure.
He comes with the two. He's the 2.0 for Atlas, and Attila, and he comes with the 2.0 for Gorgo in the 2-pack.
Yes. I believe I saw that one there, but I wasn't sure if I'd pre-order that one.
Yeah, again, the photography, man. Look at the setup of this thing and the lighting on him. Love it. And that hammer, that weapon. Yeah, I was gonna say
hammer. Sorry, go ahead, Brick.
Oh no. I was just gonna say that when you were mentioning Juno, she originally came with like my favorite weapon in in Legions, that big giant hammer, right? And
The
then this
Warhammer,
one,
yeah.
and then you've got this one. It's like, whoa, what were you gonna say about
So-
this hammer? Mic down.
Nope.
okay.
Are you right there, sir?
My tiefling succubus character just jumped off the shelf.
Or was it a bit hungry there?
She must have
It's
been.
like, talk about me. Talk about me.
No, the hammer is so the version 1 on the right there. I think that's the version 1 on the right. He did not come with that hammer.
So he looks like that. He looks like that fellow out of the old was it the Chronicles of Riddick movie? The what's the name? The leader there, the Necro fellows.
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, he had that
the
big
guy from the
funny
boys.
helmet on.
Yeah.
Carl Urban.
Yeah.
Or maybe
That's
he
all.
looks like
Carl Urban.
he might look like a bit of a Serpentor there too, maybe.
So they the version 2 comes with like that the big hammer, is it the hammer of Leosair or the Leosair hammer, which is where the name of the army of Odysseus comes from, and those, they've said that the hero or the leaders of the heroic factions take their name. So he's Attila Leosair, named after the hammer that he wields in all of that. So yeah, it's got the new shield, the new details, new sculpt. So
well, I haven't named my hammer as yet. He just sort of sits beside me there. But better to need it and not have it, and have it and not need it. I don't know. What do you say?
I am normally not a knight person either, Sean, but when I saw this guy, I'm like, oh man, the armor on this is amazing.
See, the Aetheron faction is the one that I'm the least interested in for that reason. Like,
right.
As much as I like Jesse, the Xylona is also right there for me. It's like those don't really do it for me, and I know why they do it for him, and that's completely cool. But like this works for me, and Noble Bear works for me. It's like it's almost the equivalent of the best way I could describe it is these guys kind of remind me of the Avengers. Going to the Marvel thing, these would be the Avengers, and Noble Bear would be the X-Men in a way, because they're the ragtag group of misfits coming into as barbarians, and these guys are like the ones who have the cred and they have the history and all that, and like
and this is Cap.
Yeah, Attila would be Cap, or I mean, he's got the hammer. He might be Thor even at this point, but you know what I mean. Like he comes in there, and there's just this holy crap! It's the superhero knight guy, and
he's like, so you lost the battle there.
Yeah. So the minute he shows up, everybody's running away, basically. So, but yeah, like that one was one that the minute they did the 2.0, I was like, I'm in. This is too good to pass up, and that's I was saying it before, and this is a perfect example. Like if you don't get the original one and they do a 2.0, you're gonna get a impressive version, updating the figure in so many nice ways. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one for sure. And that shield, which isn't pictured here, is just the sculpt on that's wild.
Yeah, that was one of the first where they're doing like the 3D logos now coming out of the shield, and it's just again, if they do a rig or shield like that, you better believe I need that. That dragon shield would be awesome.
What's a bit of artwork there?
I love the shot too.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And you got some of the knights in the background.
Yeah, that's one thing I know. The joke is that the photos don't do the toys justice, and I know that's the joke, and that's kind of mean to Trevor. But like when you look at these, because like that doesn't look like a group of toys.
Yeah. Well,
like unless you really look at the horse's joint,
a scene set in history.
Absolutely, it looks like a scene out of a movie. The way he's got the dust and the particles in there. The only thing that really gives it away is the joints on the horses, if you're even really looking at those.
Oh, yes, I see now.
I think the joke is mostly when they have the reveals for the figures, because then it's like some of the paint, you don't really get the subtlety of it. And then all of a sudden you see it in person, you're like, holy crap, that's what they're doing with it. And then they're like,
Yeah.
Trevor, why can't you do this? You know, and you just see the look on his face like, oh, go F yourselves. You know, like
Well,
he always has that vibe anyways. It's like, I love that he has that, like, it's talking to your dad about what you love. He's like, yeah, kid, that's great. Now this, you know.
Well, and the thing about like all the pictures he takes for the reveal, like those are like the original prototypes. So those aren't the injected plastic like the
Right.
figures are. Like those are the resin or
Yeah.
whatever, you know. So like he says sometimes like he can barely get them to stay together long enough to take the shot just because they're not
Oh dear.
fully formed
Yes.
pieces yet. So
Yeah, Trevor was on an interview recently. I'm forgetting where now, but he was talking a little bit about how he started working with the Horsemen. And at one point, you know, he says part of what I shared with him is like, these figures are great, but you know, you could up it with, essentially it was the photography's not doing the figures just
They
right.
might have been on Mythic Customs channel, I believe. He was in the shop, as it were, and he had bought all the. There were some fellows doing work in the background, so he brought them in, and they were talking about what they do and what have you. So you might have seen it on there.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think there's just, to go back to it, I look at this photo and it absolutely like does these figures justice and kind of gives us a sense of everything, the story, like what's going on. And you know, I love these photos. The product shots, I get it, right? But man, when you look at this, it's just you totally get sucked in. And like I said,
it's
that
a whole
last
other
one
dimension
too,
there.
with this, you're just like, yes, that's what's happening in my head, right, as I'm playing. And yeah, it's amazing. Anyway, love it.
No, 100%.
Newer guy, here we go.
Sir
Adalric
something. Yeah,
Adalric
or Adalric, I guess it is.
Yeah,
it looks like anal. So I you know, just like I did with Hugwalian, or I was like, oh, Jaguar, okay, and I was like, anal. I
think Adalric. I think maybe Adalric. I think that's
anal
right.
Lick. What the hell?
Oh gosh.
I'm never showing back up for this again. I'm sorry, guys.
I love this character. Like the backstory is that he's basically one of the richest people in Mythos. But he's also the most generous. Like he's giving to charities and helping take care of people. And he's got like this fancy, flashy armor and everything.
He's a bit of a Tony Stark there.
He's a bit of a Tony Stark. Yeah, he's a show, but like he's got
a later Tony Stark, shall we say?
Yeah, and he's got the real heart of gold, like literally, like helping take care of people. And yeah.
The thing I like about that, though, is if you follow the story and you know about him and Elijah, the fact that they come with the skull heads, then it's that whole, you know, like in the war movies, there's always that guy, I can't wait to get home to my girl, and I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to do that, and then they get killed.
And he bites the dust at the end,
you know, and it's like, these would be those guys, and then you're sitting there going, no, but he was a charitable person. He was a good person. You know, it's like if you go that way in your own head canon, it can be a hell of a like emotional impact that these guys are dead by the end of the war.
These filmmakers, they like to subvert your expectations. I believe you say.
True.
You know, I'm looking at this, and I'm going to go back real quick. And I guess I don't really have any old ones too much. But again, I think we said it last time, this notion of like, as you're trying to get into Legions, and we know that when the pre-orders drop, it's the cheapest. But we also had said, it had come up that like the newest ones tend to be even better, like each time. And as you said, the shield, the 3D shield, if you take a look at this shield versus the one we were looking at earlier with the dragon sort of 2D print on it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all this armor. I'm looking at this, you know, this belt here that is, maybe it is the same belt, just painted with gold detail. I'm not sure.
Nope, that's new.
That's brand new. Is that connected to that pauldron?
I believe so.
Shield?
Typically, the pauldrons are their own things, but yeah, like that's the whole thing. And us doing this is a great time to just go. That's a $37 figure.
Yep.
Yeah. By January 15th.
Like, I mean, yeah, January 15th is still $37 until the end of until they say, okay, that's it. Pre-orders are done. And
Well,
even then, he won't
a bit more like $70 or $80 Eternia for me.
True,
Sadly.
true,
Oof, yeah.
true.
It'd be
There's
nice
an
if it
exchange
was
rate.
30 Eternia
But
dollars or
but
whatnot.
that's the thing for like for the American collectors that are watching and stuff. You know, like $37, and you know, I obviously
What's $37? Yes, exactly. But for
it
me,
is.
oh dear.
Yes, but I'm just, you know, like anybody who says that it's hard to get into this collecting for this line, it's like I can see why you'd say that, but then there's enough avenues out there right now between what we're doing, between Mythic Conversations, between Legion's Lounge, and you know, and whatever. I mean, there's tons of ways of getting information to find out. Here's how you can do this, and you don't have to do an all-in and be like one of the cool kids. You can still pick and choose some of these, like I'm going to be doing, and you still get some fun, you know. And you just have to be patient. That's the only other thing. Just be patient.
Yes, that's true. Sometimes it might take a bit longer.
Is sent to you then, because it's usually
to
around
get
about
what
a year.
figures you might like.
So.
Again, just to pick out some of these details, like I'm looking at again the soft goods that CJS, the team that is CJS's, looking at the stitching here, it's just really, really well done. It's so clean. Like having messed with the sewing machine, to think that they do
is that feathers in his hat there, or is it just plastic feathers?
Up here, it looks plastic. But just you know, having messed with the sewing machine, they'll do their thing, and they'll do the models and the what do you call them, the patterns, and do the prototype. But then this goes to a factory, and that's the thing that trips me out too, because just like, you know, a figure from Mattel or Hasbro or whatever goes to a factory and gets made, and there's a lot of great stuff happening there. But I'm looking at this, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around the painting that happens,
some of
right,
the
and the
sewing
that
soft
happens.
goods there. So you can
right,
but a few of those off, like old Trapjaw came with a bit of a robe and so forth.
Well,
and those are usually just
different.
Thin, flat pieces of fabric. That stitching,
there.
and I think a lot of these are wired too.
I think it's
like
all
Father
wired.
Christmas.
Oh yes, and they're bringing in the old wire now with Masterverse. So I think God Evil in, or was it the Sorceress Evil in, is getting wire in her cape.
But again, for their price, I was gonna say their price point, because that's a different deal. I guess I still wrap my head around, even when people say $37. And again, you know, I said before, I had the new Eternia Beast Man that was like $40 and had some fur and everything. But I'm looking at the amount of work.
The Masterverse
the folks in these factories
are about in the range of $49 for like your standard figure.
Where you're at, right?
But then it gets up to about $60 when you come to say new Eternia Beastman there. Or
and that's what I'm saying. Here in California,
they've hiked the price on the movie He-Man and Skeletor figures. They're about $69 out here. So yes,
you know,
I couldn't justify that. I'm that guy right now where I love Masters, and I'm not buying a single thing of Masters right now because I look at the quality of what they're giving us. It's like they can't do a He-Man head for the life of them. They can't. I've
now, seen that come up a bit.
I cannot find a He-Man that makes me think. The only one that is a He-Man head to me is the CGI one, because they got that legit. This is CGI He-Man. But if you look at the other one, like Battle Armor He-Man for New Eternia, no. I've seen customs that look better than that. I've seen.
I've had to do my own custom Dolph Lundgren head sculpt there for when I got that figure.
And that's the problem. Cool. That's the problem to me, though, is, you know, for the prices you pay for the Masters stuff, and the stuff doesn't even look like what you want it to look like, and you have to go to third-party people to get a custom to make it look the way you feel it should look. And it's like, granted, this is the toy line, and the toy line is its own thing. It's not like we have a movie to say, oh, so-and-so played this, so he should look like that actor or whatever.
The body type, even in the body types too, say Savage He-Man there from Revelation, he's looking a bit scrawny there, like he needs a
Well,
sandwich or two.
that was one of those I was like, did they watch the show? Did they get any idea what the show was going to do with this character?
Or they
But,
had
like,
early concept art.
Exactly. And it's like when I look at this, I'm like, with all of the bells and whistles, and even talking about the older figures, like when I got into the line before they started doing this kind of stuff, it's like that to me still was worth the money over what Mattel is mass producing right now, to be honest.
And then they brought out the CGI He-Man in Masterverse, and he's all bulked up and looking like his series counterpart there.
Yeah,
so it's a bit of a hit and miss at the best of times.
Absolutely, and it's funny to me that the CGI figures are the ones that I actually enjoy collecting out of those lines, because I feel like they aren't doing them badly. And then when I see like the new Attorney of Battle Armor He-Man, or just new, the Masterverse He-Man, the first one they put out for Revelation, I was like, are they looking at the show? Do they know how this stuff is drawn? Because it does not look like that on the show, And so I've been very underwhelmed by what they've been putting out in the last few years, to be honest.
Yeah, and maybe to lift things up again, to go back, I'm just looking at some of the older, like this is a really, Cassie is an older figure, Dubon's a more new figure. This character is not that new. Yeah, got like 3 waves back.
No, Elijah's in the new wave.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's right.
He's up
brand
for
new. Okay, because I was going to say, look at
right
these
now.
soft goods. But yeah, look at that. Look at the detail on the chainmail. And again, just thinking about, these are in a factory. These are folks maybe doing 1 hit, 2 hit, or whatever it is, but they're still able to crank these things out in this.
The face sculpts there are
it's amazing.
quite fantastic.
Yeah.
I think one of the only face sculpts I've enjoyed from Masterverse was the one on the Fisto figure there.
And I'll give you that. I'll give you the Fisto one looking
great.
Agree. And the thing is, too, I mean, the genius of the line, and for anybody who has issues with the reuse of parts, but when you have a different paint app on it, all of a sudden that part is like if you look at Atlas and then you look at Adamon, just that little bit of the skin color being a little lighter on Adamon, and him having the blonde hair, and also 2 eyes instead of being blinded in the 1 eye and all that. And it's like, it's just enough for you to go, no, that's Adamon, that's Atlas, and it is impressive that with how they built this line and the way that they've grown it, you can have that kind of working, even though some people would be like, it's the same head sculpt. It's like, yeah, but it's still a different character, because look at what you did differently here, And it's that Masters of the Universe, like from the 80s. They almost all had the same exact body, but they had that little bit of, okay, the arms were Skeletor's arms instead of being He-Man's arms. It's all of a sudden you got a new character,
Adamon and Atlas are like Grunt and Zap. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I did that. I did that with my Kodar custom a wee while back. That bought a few that used mostly the Fisto body, and used the new Eternia He-Man head with the helmet head sculpt there. But I just had to put a bit of a beard on him, and put the visor over the helmet and do a bit of sculpting on the horns and elsewhere there, and so forth. And it also used the harness, the back harness portion from New Eternia He-Man to hold his sword, so I glued that on the back of Fisto's armor there, that I also used.
Very cool.
So it's pretty easy to change the figures up.
Absolutely. I forgot that there was another shot of Dubon here. It's the same shot, just sort of not angled, but man, look at that. That tease with the bird flying.
You could have
I do want to point out
holding that up.
That's photo magic. That bird is like the one with Valak, where it's attached to the piece that slips over the arm. But
okay, yes,
these are more the creative shots, not the product shots. So
yes, of course, yes.
I mean, like, look at every little one of these things that customizers do all the time, but this is being done in a factory to every single figure, and that's what ships out, and that's what you got for 34, I think, if I calculated right, if you did all in for this wave.
Well,
it's just amazing.
I just wanted to bring up, I had to step away for a moment there, so I came back, and you guys were talking about cost-wise, price to figure, and you brought up Elijah there for a moment, and you're talking about what you think is worth it. Elijah out of the new wave, and actually, Brick, I'm going to steal screen from you here for a sec. This. It's $37. You get your core figure and everything.
He's got soft goods too, of course. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So you're talking soft goods. You're talking two different heads.
Yeah.
And a swappable face.
Which you can make them into a skull. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You got the two shoulder polygons.
That shield would be rather big, I think.
Yep. The
shield's most of the size of the figure. Yeah.
And the paint.
And I believe this figure is head to toe. Head to toe is a new sculpt. I think maybe some of the
it's almost two figures there, I think. Just about.
Well, I mean, aside from the body, yes, they give you enough for like two figures. And to what Jesse's saying, if this is all new tooling and they're only charging you $37, meanwhile,
still not bad. Yes.
The one thing about this that they made a point of saying at G-Con was now they have a disc system in the arms or in the shoulders where now you can have them bring their arms across. You can have a two-handed holding of a blade now, the way that a lot of people have been wanting. So yeah, they have a whole new system with these starting with this wave.
You see, with my style of collecting there, I sometimes have to rely on services like Afterpay. Like they splits your payment up into 4 amounts. So they pay, the gold to whoever, and then you pay them back in 4 lots. So that usually helps me to keep collecting. But I don't know if the 4 Horsemen will do anything like that. I think PayPal has a bit of a payment plan that you select on checkout. I don't know roughly how that works, but
you can do a couple different ways. Well, you can do a couple different ways depending what you're using, and you can pay them through those. I've paid through Klarna, I've paid through PayPal,
yes, I heard of that one. Yes,
and I've paid through Zip with them too. So
Zip. Yes, I tried to get a Zip account, but it was too hard, so I didn't bother.
But there are options if
but yes, of course, yes.
You can do something with them if you do the pay Afterpay stuff. Like a lot of things are instituting lately.
Yes, we have Zip and Afterpay here. We did have one called Hum, but they closed shop with their Afterpay like service, as it were. They allowed you to pay in 5 lots there over every fortnight or so on. But no, with Zip, I didn't have all the right paperwork every time I submitted this paperwork and that. They said, no, it's not the right one. Oh, dear. So I never had that trouble with Afterpay or Hum, so I just stuck with Afterpay. But I think I set up is it Klarna, you say? Account there?
Yeah.
Klarna, whatever, yeah. No. But even those can get away on you too if you're not careful.
That's all right. Toy collectors are all responsible with their money, so
that's right.
I'm responsible about being irresponsible. Because that's just what I'm expected
irresponsible.
To be. I'm responsibly irresponsible. You want something messed up? I'm your guy. Let's do this.
I'm so consistently inconsistent.
I am the consistent, irresponsiblest person ever.
Yeah, as you were talking earlier about sort of like the Atom and Atlas, I was looking at this Kuban and looking at what's his face? Yeah. Very similar, right? It's the same hood, but it's just it is completely different. And then I look at him versus say the Headless Horseman and the sort of even it's color for sure, but it's things like being thoughtful about what the finish is. Like there's this shininess to his boot versus a sort of like patent leather look. Like I don't sit here and go
in that cape there. What's going on?
Yeah.
So that looks good. You can do the old cape swept up look there.
Yeah.
Which is rather good.
And honestly,
I see you're doing a bit of custom on that He-Man figure there in front of you.
Oh yeah, and to
There's
go back
something
to the
with
point,
something.
because we were talking about it, and I was, when I like to have figures in my hand. Yeah, I always
Got the
have to
bear there,
replace
yes.
the heads on these things, and like it again. Speaking of the irresponsible, these are not cheap things, right?
No, they're not.
The head is probably more than the head is definitely more
Absolutely.
But the
than
head looks
figure.
better though.
And I love this. I absolutely love this head. This is by Jose Luis Morea or Hordak MX.
And I've loved his work because I started seeing his work show up when the Revelations wave came out, and he was making them look legit like the cartoon. I'm like, why can't Mattel do this?
How hard is it?
Heck, how hard is it to do that if this guy can do it?
There's definitely something about how they run their business, obviously, and there's the people in charge and the level of quality
especially
they look
in the light
for
of the
and
Dolph
expect.
Lundgren figure there. I think they would have had to pay royalties to him to use his likeness and so forth.
And so then they made a figure that doesn't look anything like him. So it's just like
Instead, they wanted one that
with
looked like
with the Skeletor figure though, they could get away with it, of course, because he was wearing prosthesis and what have you to make him look different. So it's not really Frank's likeness per se.
Again, I don't like to. This is not about like smashing and just like
No, not.
But I do want to name, like, I think they're two very different sized companies, obviously, and like they don't have the same financial outlook or maybe burden. Horsemen don't have the same outlook or maybe this sort of pressure from whatever to.
Because I see they're very different now.
I'm sure they have I'm sure they have a very sort of different set of goals of what they're trying to achieve financially and all that kind of thing, right? And there's this need. This is their vision. This is their thing they're creating. So I 100% get it. But I mean, they do like I'm putting this in, but I'm looking at the Savage He-Man. I'm looking at the wash on that because part of me was like, well, I'm looking at New Eternia He-Man, and he's got a lot of great sculpted detail, like a lot of these retail lines do. But you don't see it because there's not some wash on there. And as a customizer, you could just take something dark and kind of highlight some of that. But then, so I'm thinking, well, maybe that's part of it. They don't do the head to toe paint versus what Mythic Legion tends to do for the most part. But then when they do try to do a wash like you do here on Savage He-Man, it's messy, it's sloppy, and that's what I keep going back to, this notion of of course they're in a factory and they're doing this, but it's like no.
When I do washes,
but hold on a second,
slowly over time, not one big wash, and of course time is money in their world, as it were.
But that's the thing. That's exactly where I was going.
Let Brick finish his thought there, though.
Yeah, it's all good. But that's exactly where I was going. It's all good. No, it's all good. But that's where these are still the same factories overseas. So, like, as far as they're still like, I don't know if they give the factories for the Mythic Legion figures a lot more time or whatever it is, but there's something going on that obviously I don't understand. I'm not saying it's simple, but there is a huge disconnect when I'm looking at sort of what's coming out of your Mattels and the Four Horsemen. And frankly, there's also a difference between some of the Hasbro figures and Mattel, just to name it.
Absolutely. And like, out of what I've been able to, like, I've gotten some G.I. Joe classified figures in my hands. I've gotten some Masterverse figures in my hands. I've had Mythic Legions, Marvel Legends and stuff like that. And I feel like whatever quality or whatever kind of plastic that they're using for the Masters of the Universe stuff, it feels like it's not going to stand the test of time like some of these other plastics in these other lines. And I don't know what the deal is with that, but I feel like it's more waxy.
Right.
It makes me feel like it's more like I'm holding a candle than holding an action figure, with how that glossiness and the feeling of the plastic. It feels like they didn't do it right or something. And I don't know the best way to describe it other than it just doesn't have that. Yeah, I mean, without going there. Yeah, that's exactly how it feels.
Well, see, the figures are now all being 3D printed, so that's how you get the pinless joints going on there. It prints sort of like a gel, and when the figure is all done, it's encased in this gel and what have you, and they have to blast it off.
Yep.
There.
again, all that to say, it's because these Mythic Legions figures are awesome, right? It's sort of like, yeah, and I love these. I having fun with them. Again, granted, this is another artist/artisan's work on the head, but yeah, these figures are amazing. We've talked about lore today. We've talked about characters, so there's all that thought that's going in there as well. And then there's the actual physical object and the design. It's just good stuff. Good stuff.
Absolutely.
That's all. Did you want to let me see? I think there's only a couple more humans. We could finish off these humans. Oh, actually, there's some. Yes, can we go back to the slides real quick? Because we're about to get to newer territory.
Of course.
There
we go.
Sorcerers.
Yes. Got the magicians, or I don't even whatever these folks, the spellcasters, sorcerers, and wizards.
I want to blow this up real big because I want to. Eldor,
so
you're jumping universes here.
Yeah, that's right. Look at you.
Yes, I have the blue hooded fellow on pre-order though. I haven't gotten this one though. He looks a bit scary, I think.
Yeah, that totally reminds me of those old D&D LJN figures. I forget the character's name. The dark sort of wizard.
Absolutely, I had him.
I mean, if you give his bald head there a bit of a hell hat like I have, he might look like old Ming the Merciless there.
Yeah, another great reference from my book too. Love it.
The thing is, like that, the evil sorcerer, and when you look at Sir Gideon, like when I saw those initially, I was like, my God, these are Dungeons and Dragons, because the other one was Lionheart,
Warduke,
and Warduke with Rhaegar.
Oh, sorry, yes,
and it's like you can definitely feel that, like Eric Treadway definitely enjoyed some Dungeons and Dragons growing up, obviously, because there's definitely a nod to to that flavor of character.
How often were we getting? Go ahead.
Oh no, you carry on, sir. All good there.
Oh, it was a. I was just curious. Before these, were we getting a whole lot of the magic effects and stuff, or
this is the first?
Okay.
Oh, there are magic effects packs you can get, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. There's a heroic pack and an evil pack.
Very cool.
Oh, so good. Look at this guy. Look at that skull.
And I think some of the figures themselves come with. I think some of them come with their own unique ones, or at least the like. I think he comes with those two particular pieces.
Yes, of course. You had old Father Christmas there out, so that gives you other options with the old bearded head sculpt there.
Indeed, absolutely.
Yeah, this one's giving me strong Sorcerer Supreme vibes with the colorway, and then the red, the blue, the yellow, and then you've got the Gandalf-y kind of blue wizard, and you've got and you've got the Dungeons, and again, they're not, but they hit those right notes, so you're like, oh, okay. It's like watching Star Wars and going like, yeah, I love Clint Eastwood films. It's like, it's not bad, because I think some people said, yeah, they're totally ripping this. I was like, no, man, they're doing it right. They're giving us stuff that's familiar, that excites us, and then giving us a whole lot of new.
Yeah,
right.
So like, yeah, you look at this real quick, and you just see your classic tropey bad wizard, right? Your sorcerer or whatever. But then you get in all the details, and I mean, and that's what they were going for. Same thing with, like Sean was saying, with Sir Gideon. You see him, and he's the classic kind of fantastical knight. The shining gold and silver armor and the blue, just very heroic, noble looking. And then this guy just looks like, all right, what, of course this is a bad guy, but then you get in all the details and the soft goods. Like, this is the same body essentially as the Father Christmas figure, but with different hands, different head, and obviously all the soft goods are different, but underneath it's going to be essentially the same body. And it's just it's just crazy, absolutely amazing. And
is that the same for him? For some,
yes.
So both of these are built on the same sort of style.
What they call like the two, that's the 2.0 buck. So it's like the elf, Grisha the Slitherer, the elf ranger, the vampires. Like the generic one or the builder ones are all on that slimmer, slightly shorter body. And they have fixed the ankle. People were saying there's a lot of problem with the ankles. They have gone back and done like a factory retool of the ankles for the 2.0 bodies, so they should be fixed going forward at this point.
So were these sort of wizardy characters the first where they did that 2.0 body of the 1.0 head?
These two are, as far as I understand, his head for Samir and the bad one, I can't remember his name, are 2.0 heads. So they are smaller
so
heads.
just Father Christmas. Got it.
Yep. So yeah, he was the first one to come with that neck peg that went from the 2.0 body to the larger 1.0 head.
Oh, okay.
So you could put a Father Christmas head on these guys with that neck peg, but you could not put this guy's neck. You could not put his head on the Samir Scroll Warder because he's a 1.0 body.
So tangent.
Did
they ever explain
Arazak
why? Arazak, was it?
The bad wizard, I think.
Oh yeah, Arazak. Yeah,
Arazak. Okay. Did they ever explain why they opted to make that Father Christmas head a 2.0? Is it because it's like a certain? Is it because it's thicker, or they wanted a big neck, or?
Well, they made it 1.0 because
Mm-hmm.
they made his head because 1.0 is the more popular size.
Mm-hmm.
They made it 1.0. I believe they talked about it with the Jeremy and Nate thing, or somewhere I heard it in the past week, because they knew people would want to put it on dwarves. They knew people would want to use it on other things that wasn't the 2.0 body.
Got it.
So they made it bigger, and with all the soft goods he has, it makes him look. I think he looks almost 1.0 size with all the gear he has on, unless you look at his actual hands and feet or pull all the soft goods off.
Yeah, I experienced that last night when I was opening mine up, and I stripped him down because I'd seen pictures of what he looked like without the soft goods on. And it's funny how just like those two layers of soft goods kind of really bulk up his base, like what his body is. But I think it's still a very, very unique and awesome figure.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I find tricky with soft goods is, I don't have any Mezcos, but I've seen them and stuff. Like a lot of those, like you were talking about the stitching on Sir Alderic earlier on his loin piece there. That looks almost to scale. I mean, obviously it's not to scale for the size, but like it's much cleaner, much crisper of a stitching than you see on like the Mezco. When you see like the Mezco or other soft goods, you see there's like that 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch wide, thick thing of fabric, like on the Masterverse, like where they have the Velcro, like you see that, and it's just super thick and bulky. And with that, I mean, look at how clean that is. It doesn't look out of proportion to the figure.
Right.
Oh, of course, it must be hard to get the old fabric weave at that scale. You're rather limited there.
Yeah, and to get the stuff to like sit right and to feel like it's the right size fabric for the scale figure and everything, it's amazing.
Unless you can find a rather soft and less dense fabric, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it for humans, I believe. Yeah, that was it for humans in that list. And I'm sure that what are some of the other roles that weren't included that you remember?
Well, for humans, I mean, of course, there's the king, knight, soldier, guard, protector, advisor, and some of these cross different races and stuff, but it just depends on what that character specific task is. And some of them are almost interchangeable. Like I had a hard time trying to figure out the difference between a fighter, a warrior, a soldier, a knight, cause it's like, all right, in my mind, I was working out the differences, but
yeah, when you said like knight, king, in my head, those are kind of like armor dudes. That's how I had
right.
Is there anything like totally different, like armor dudes, barbarians, rangers? Is there anything that's missing or that pops to mind?
Specifically a hunter could be a ranger as well.
For human, yeah. I'm just wondering, since we went through the humans and we're kind of just like sharing with whoever.
Swashbuckler and pirate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think
A mage human, perhaps.
let's see. I mean, you've got I don't remember. I don't have the classes or the roles broken down by races, but you've got like destroyer, enforcer, gladiator, Viking, warmonger, emissary, folk hero, herald, interpreter, king, leader, lord, messenger.
Oh, they've got like job, like
relic keeper, temptress, war hero, trainer, swordsman, soldier,
what do you
mercenary,
do for a living?
guard.
I'm a temptress.
Well, that's the Melina, the evil Lynn tribute. Thief, spy, assassin, bodyguard,
or
champion,
priest or priestess, I suppose.
Yeah, priest, priestess. Commander, defender, fighter, guard. It's all over the place, and I tried to break them down into like the classic kind of D&D categories. So under fighter, I have like archer, bowcaster, commander, defender, fighter, general. So like things that are a little more like skill set wise.
Nice.
At least in the way I did the breakdown. So
very awesome.
I suppose we have plenty of dead humans too, with all the skeletons and what have you.
Well, the skeletons are listed as their own race. So
they're listed
as their own race. When they get brought back to undead life, they are something else now.
No longer human.
Yeah.
That's what old Necronominus is up to, I believe.
Yep.
Yes.
He just wants to kill everything.
Like does he have that special? Was it that sword? Was it the ether blade or something that allows him to do that? I can't remember.
That's the God Razor is Necronominus's weapon that brings them back to light, to undead life. Yeah. And they are, once they're brought back with that, they are like in thrall to him. It's not like there is a person, like they are basically bone puppets for him to use.
Bone puppets.
Or they once were has been stripped away with everything else, I suppose.
Yep. Now, obviously, Hagnon, because he's a ghost, there's a little bit of play there. And it wasn't Necronominus himself that did that to him. But yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we've been going on almost 3.5 hours now.
What? It's been like 10 minutes.
Right? That's what it feels like most of the time. I mean, it goes by in the blink of an eye. Next thing you know, boom. So we've managed to at least get through the factions, and we went quite in depth in the humans, and well, not quite so in depth. There's clearly more to explore with just the humans, which is one of the cool things about it. But I think we should probably call this class, and then we'll pick up again with some of the other races next month going into January. How do you guys feel about that?
That works.
Oh, yes.
Yep. That makes sense.
It's on like
covered a lot of territory.
Yeah. I mean, it's surprised because of how much lore and everything there is to go through. Like, clearly we're going to be a while doing these classes, which is the great part about it, because I'm already looking forward to next month and meeting up and diving into some more of these factions and seeing, or races rather, and looking at some of the characters within. I did post the link again, of course, for the Source Horsemen, so anybody who was late can kind of catch up on things that we had run through earlier, as well as, of course, you could just watch through the whole thing again, or at least those beginning parts, and catch what you missed. But I've had a very fun night with everybody going through what we did. See, again, just talking about the starting of the world of Mythos, and moving forward, we're gonna have a lot more to go through with that, and that's incredible.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and as you said, there's the site, and it's not like it's accessible. It's there. The stuff you want to look at it. We gave you the Cliff's Notes or Spark Notes, some of my students like to use now, version, but all of it's just from here, and it's organized in a really cool way. You've got the factions and characters, and I think for the races, if you do a search for race Mythos, there's actually like a collection of blog posts specifically about different races.
Yeah, it's in the blog post. Yep.
So it's there. You just kind of got to dig through it, but we'll we can continue to do what we've done so far and kind of give you the primers and the.
Yeah,
That's right. I just want to bring it up that, earlier tonight, SJ Curtis was saying that there's so much on the website.
Mm-hmm.
And even my
Yes.
sister had chimed in with definitely have to read each bio, that's for sure. And it's all there. Like, again, there is a lot of info on this site. We're just kind of giving you guys, as what Brick said, we're giving you cliff notes, but definitely go back in and dig more into this yourselves as we dig further into it as we go along too. Um, you know, we certainly want you to take your own interest in this. And I mean, clearly from what Thanos was saying earlier, he's already gotten a little bit more into it himself. And I got to say, I'm glad to hear that because this line has got me legitimately very, very excited for something new. Whereas I love what Masters is doing. I absolutely love my Motu stuff, but it's excited for what I've had and things that, I've seen before with some new spins on things. I like when they add new stuff to things that I already like, but this is all new and groundbreaking. So it's
And
all
here
very,
we've
very
just seen
exciting for me.
Roboto there in Wave 12 with the mini comics color variant there.
Yeah. Yeah. Finally.
That's the one with the heart on his chest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've
The
included
orange
that.
legs.
Although the orange in the comic was a bit darker, I like that orange rather.
Yeah.
That was just photos, I suppose. It might be darker in hand.
Wow,
So-
I can't believe I
David
totally forgot there were
stuck with
people
us
still
the
here
whole
watching.
time. Holy crap.
Guys, no,
So
this
did
wasn't a
Tony.
private discussion. We're still live.
I just feel like everybody kind of got
whatever I
quiet.
said. I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you all for sticking around so much.
Yeah,
But
seriously, appreciate it.
Don't go all yet, because I got something special to show you all there. So stick in
Yeah,
there.
that's right.
Or you in the chat.
Phoenix. Yeah, I'm just scrolling through to give you a sense.
that
But
slow
if
scroll.
we wanna, if we could take a look at, we could move through. Don't feel like you need to show this.
Of course, they give you all that
there's some good
information
stuff
on
here.
all the different
I was
ways
just
that it come
kinda-
out too.
Letting it roll like credits.
Well, the cool thing is like all the information I shared tonight is all from here, or it's all from Jeremy's Mythic conversation about the books, or from the website. Most of it is from the website. There's some new things because he read a couple chapters or pages out of the book on his Mythic conversations last week after Thanksgiving, or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. But yeah, it's all there. It's you have to read it. There's a lot to read, but you don't have to like jump through hoops to get it. It's right there for everybody to get into. And it's really cool.
Mhm.
Oh, Sean.
Thank you. Another
There we
shout out on the Cabal Creations.
That's right.
I owe him $5 for that. No, that's awesome. Like the fact that he stuck around that long.
I know.
He's the man.
We got some, people such as Thanos, Copter, Gamer Bud, a lot of the patrons to my channel and all like that. They're pretty diehard, and they're definitely always into hear deep talk about these toys like what we had tonight.
Mhm.
But I love it when, somebody such as David himself is a new, just coming in new to my channel, may not know myself so well, but he knows you guys from the community,
Mhm.
and he stuck around just to, listen to us talk shop about, something we're all into and we all appreciate.
Sure.
So, David, thank you for hanging around and watching all
new
that.
there, and I've just met Oz there, sir, just recently, and all these other fellows here.
And I'll say this plug real quick for while Eldor's doing whatever he's doing there. David, he was my guest on Shooting the Shelf last Sunday. We had a really nice conversation. So if anybody wants to find out a little bit more about David, check that out.
Definitely.
There we go. Definitely. I will put that link in the description for last Sunday's Just Shooting the Shelf.
Thank you.
I'm actually worried now. What is he going to post that makes me go, oh crap, I don't know if I can take down this talent at all. Because last time he came up with Necronominus, and that thing blew the
That
roof
thing's
off
amazing.
the joint. So
Yeah.
I want to see him draw you as a barbarian
Amazing.
and noble bear.
There we go.
But with my dad bod, that'll make it really fun.
I was gonna
I'm the
say,
one barbarian that I'll sit in the chair and I'll swing my axe around. I'm tired.
Swing your
Bring
what
me some
around?
Toys.
What are you swinging around?
Axe.
Oh,
What do you think I was swinging around?
I don't know.
Well,
I got my
jelly.
hammer there, so
A lot of jelly.
watch out.
Duchess, I'm glad you stuck around. Thanks for. I know I'm not trying to take over your thing, but that's really
good.
cool that you all stuck around so long.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
absolutely. We've got people who want to know what we've got to say, and definitely enjoy finding out more about all of what we have going on. So, I mean, it's great.
If we're gonna do these, that they're gonna be 3 hours, 4 hours, we should have it that if you can get to the end of this episode, you get a Mythic Legions figure. We'll just send it to you, just because you are so.
You hung out this
listening.
long.
You need one. You need one because you were that good.
Sean, you're starting to write checks that my bank account can't keep.
Hey, I'm doing paying 6 months to a year on some of this stuff. What do I? It's like I'm saying. Stuff
Hey,
that doesn't need
at
to
some
be said
point,
out loud.
Oz, I'll put up I'll paint up a custom head or something to give away at some point.
Oh, hey, yeah, that would be great. There we go. That would be so awesome. And I'm sure definitely we can certainly try to do some kind of cool giveaway. We can talk about it a little bit because again, yeah, we just spent 3.5 hours talking about this, and again, Thanos and Duchess and David, they've all been here since the beginning. If you've been here since the beginning of the stream, give us a shout out. I said hi to everybody at the beginning too, so I'll know if you're lying.
I'll tell you what. Here, I'll say it right now. You'll have it on recording and everything. I will get a Barbarian Legion Builder set, and we give that away because of what I said tonight.
Okay.
And that will be part of it. If Jesse does the head, and then I'll get the Barbarian Builder set completely unopened, new in box. Then you go to town as the viewer. While we're like within 3 hours, you get to put together your own little pop and swap, and then send us the photo of what you make after you win it. Simple as that.
I'm loving that idea.
To an episode.
Absolutely.
Sounds good there.
I'm loving this idea, and that will be the Legions class custom.
Yes, there we go.
All right, so exclusive giveaway right here from Legions class on Ostradamus Toys Live. You guys heard it. Now, Eldor, you had something to share with the class.
No, yes, a special figure there to show you, and a little bit of a story for it as well. So, if you were all watching Sir Oz's episode back when he got a bit of a delivery from Sean there, he gave him the Legion Builder Bavarian figure, so he was unboxing all that, and then the very next day, well, I was out in the market there, and guess what popped up? A Barbarian Legion Builder figure. So I thought on it for probably about 0.1 seconds and decided to pick him up and jump on that one before anybody else did. So it's only one of two figures I've been able to find here in Eternia, but the seller had three of the vampire figures, and I almost got the Varg there because I saw a nice custom someone did with the Templar Knight body, and they put the Varg pieces on that one. But no, he was wanting 110 in gold there, and I'd already spent a bit on the various and this figure. So yes, I managed to get him with the various there, and they arrived I think last week from old Postar there. So how about a bit of an unboxing there? So if you're just new to this figure line, you'll notice that the card is a bit of a slide out there, so you can repackage your figure and so forth if you want. Or if you had to move house, I suppose it comes in handy to keep them all nice and protected there. So you just sort of slip the backing card out there, and you get a nice little art scene on one side, and then you get a bit of the story that's going on there about the evil that they fought many, I guess, centuries ago. But then the evil's coming back there, and they're all having to get all immobilized there, and then as you do. So there's that. Get a bit of a card that you slip out, and then you usually get a few accessories there, weapons, and a bit of a switch out on the shoulder armor there, and what have you on this figure. And of course, here's a look at the front there. So I did a little bit of a custom paint job on him, and I added a bit of fur goods, or soft goods, as you say, but a bit of fur there. So I made my own pattern up for that, and it's just a simple sort of almost a half leaf shape with a bit of a hole there, so you can push it over the ball joint for the neck. So we pop him out there, and yes, it's falling on the ground there, but you get the old instructions that tell you to, of course, if you're going to move anything about, heat it up so you don't break the joints and such. So yes, you get the sword displayed in the front there with your Legion Builder figure, and I painted a bit of paintwork in the sword and so forth. But we'll get old Brahm out. I've given him a name. Call him Brahm. I don't know who he's the son of, but we leave that up to the imagination there. So here we go. I've painted his horns in a sort of I guess a bone horn color. Using I painted a bit of I think a yellow ochre as a bit of a base, and then mixed a bit of white with that color to do a bit of a dry brush or a wash over the yellow ochre. And after I did in various stages, so I did on the dry brush of some white towards the tips of the horns, and then I sealed it up in a bit of a gloss enamel paint to give it that sort of shiny horn look to him. And so yes, he's got the soft goods that I made out of some scraps of fur that I had there after I made a wee pattern up for that. So that just goes on over the ball joint of the neck, and then you pop the head back on. And he's got his axe there, which I've done a bit of paint on too. So I painted the handle a bit of a browny wood colour. And then the axe, I just dry brushed in a bit of silver there, just nice and lightly. But yes, I decided to pull the whole figure apart there, so it'll be easier to paint all the various different armor pieces and the legs, which I did a bit of a dry brush in silver first, and then went in with a very, very light dry brush of gold to kind of give a bit of a bronzy look, because of course the figure was already pre-painted in sort of like I guess you would say a Mars black type color, I suppose you say. So I tried to use a bit of that base color that the factory had done him in. And yes, I've angled his horns down there, as it were, and I painted his beard in a bit of a dry brush too, to have a bit of a lighter beard color. And I painted the straps dangling down there in front of the loincloth in a bit of a light brown, and in the belt holding the fur on his waist there, painted that brown too, and a little bit of dry brush of white to get a bit of a worn look, where there's like two little loops out there at the front on either side of this main detail, just to give that sort of idea of the belt going over those loops and such. But yes, and that's him there, and he's got his sword, of course, which you get displayed in the front of the package there. So I just did
He
a
looks
dry brush
great.
of silver. Did a dry brush of silver on the blade. Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You're
Love
probably
what's
not going to
happening
see
to the
it all
blade.
that well, but I'll review him, and of course I'll have a few photos go up on the Cabal tonight. There, and I painted the wee spikes in gold, and then just did a bit of dirty wash on this part here and such. So yes, that's him, all looking different and customized and such. And I highlighted these sort of details in a bit of silver, so they're a different color from the rest. But I've seen a few do that of late. I think a few photos I saw today and yesterday. I thought, oh yes, I did that too on my shoulder armor pieces. But yes,
That's
it's
really awesome.
it's very fun, and what you can do with the old paint customs there,
Mm-hmm.
and give it a bit of a different look, I suppose. I was tempted to paint his other shoulder piece in red, like I did with this part at the front. I did a bit of silver wear showing through, of course, a bit of paint wear, so you see a bit of the silver coming through on that. I was going to, yes, paint that shoulder piece maybe in a similar fashion, but then I thought, oh no, I can barely get him in the package with one shoulder piece on. So I decided to try a bit of a. I thought I'd try a bit of a fur soft goods look to him, because
Very
he's
nice.
part of the noble bear house, a bit of bear fur maybe. But no,
Mm-hmm.
this is synthetic fur, so no beasties were harmed in the creation of that, shall we say?
Very noble.
But
Mm-hmm.
you can buy, yes, of course, got to keep it noble. So you can buy that synthetic fur from your craft stores. It's a little bit more expensive than some types, of course. I think this was off a bit of a $24 roll that I got many years ago.
Nice.
Very nice.
That is
Nicely
really
done.
awesome.
So yes, it's a bit of a surprise. I thought I would show there, and a bit of a coincidence from your figure there, Oz.
Yeah,
Since this
absolutely.
showed up the day after your video there, so that was a bit of a funny coincidence.
Definitely.
Very
And
cool.
But
I love it.
as we were talking about the barbarians and
Mhm.
today with the humans, and of course that bit of a giveaway maybe in the future. But yes.
Yeah, Eldor, you're saying you saw that was it like a store or like a
The fur, a bit of a
fair?
craft store.
So it's kind of like,
Yes, the craft store is called Spotlight here in Eternia, but I don't know
oh,
what
sorry,
what.
not the fur. Where you actually found the
Oh,
figure? You said where you
oh,
actually ended up
on
seeing Mythic
the
Legions.
the local marketplace there, sort of like an online auction site, a bit
Oh,
like
online.
eBay. What you would
Gotcha,
have the
gotcha.
old Evil Bay there, but it's called Trade Me here in New Zealand.
Mhm.
Oh,
Got
boy,
it.
I gave away a secret there. No, I should say Eternia.
I thought that's where Eternia was.
Straight that, reverse it.
The Middle Earth. We used to call it Middle
It's
Earth
Middle
sometimes.
Earth. It's Eternia.
Where all the
Yeah,
It's like you're
hobbits
good.
and orcs live here.
Yeah, I'll see if I can contribute something too for that custom thing. We're hitting holiday break, so I think I'll have some time. So we'll each have a little bit of something to give away. That'll be kind
Of
of
course,
cool.
I'm a bit good at the old sculpting there. I had a person message me after joining the Cabal. He saw my custom figurine that I was sculpting up, and he was inquiring about dragon head sculpts. And of course, I've done a bit of a dinosaur head sculpt that I shared on my intro. Thanks for adding me into the group. Rather, there's a bit of a dinosaur piece. I'm working on a costume rather. Sorry. Yeah, so it's just similar to a dragon, I suppose. And then an old
Yeah, they were
old
mistaken for
Sigoran
dragons.
there, being part dragon and part orc himself. So I thought it'd be fairly easy to do,
Nice.
and so on.
all right, guys. Well, I think that's enough to call it a wrap for this evening, but we'll have more details up once we get everything panned out for the giveaway. But thank you all for showing up tonight, and we will see you all next month. I'll see you
Woohoo!
later this week on various episodes, and I'm
Good to see
sure
you all in the chat there.
you guys will definitely catch out Jesse tomorrow night on Just Shelve It.
Twice
He will be
tomorrow.
Oh yes.
twice tomorrow night. That's
Double header.
Oh,
you know,
you'll be a busy
last
boy
week
there.
you did back to back, both
Mhm.
days of the weekend. Now you're just going straight and doing it 2 episodes
Yeah.
back to back.
Yep.
One of the hardest working men on Facebook Live and YouTube and
Mhm.
everything else. So
I don't know about that.
So class is dismissed, I guess,
Uh-huh.
right?
that's
Class
right.
dismissed.
Everybody go.
Oh, saved by the bell.
See you, everybody.
All
Cheerio.
right, folks.